Good. We're still in the afternoon, so good afternoon, guys. I pray that you guys have had an amazing day on today. I know this is more of a pop up than it is anything else. Even though I did schedule it initially for 4:05 and then change it to 4:30, so that I could take that fluff master back there outside to enjoy the day before it gets dark. But that's neither here nor there. I'm gonna let y'all come in the room. I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I was a little bit surprised to come in here and not see any comments, not see anybody in the waiting room waiting for the message or what have you. I said, I guess the saints don't want to talk about deliverance. They don't want to talk about deliverance, but we got to talk about deliverance. We got to talk about demons and casting out demons, and we got to talk about this kind of stuff. And before I get into my notes, just a little bit of small talk. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I've said this to y'all before, but I was telling her, we were talking about the whole situation with Twitch. The guy that um worked for Ellen DeGeneres. And I was telling her, I said, and this is one of the reasons I believe, I said, as people, as Christians, we should have the ability to cast out demons. All of us, every single one of us should have the ability to cast out demons because, whenever you are a wife, when you're a husband, whenever you are a parent, when you are a friend, it doesn't matter what role you serve in somebody's life, you're almost always in contact with people who are in need of deliverance. And, the thing with Twitch was that they posted the videos of him smiling, having a great time the day before he took his life. And I was telling her, I said, yeah, that's how demons work. He could be smiling and have a whole lot of pain. And obviously we know that that's how depression works, is that you put on a front, especially whenever you're in the public eye. But whenever you're dealing with demonic oppression or even demonic possession, it can hit you in the blink of an eye. It can hit you in the blink of an eye. I remember seeing something on TikTok. This young lady said one day she was in her, and I wish I could remember it in its entirety. But I remember her saying that she was in her apartment and she was like on the third, fourth floor. I don't know. She was just up there, and she said all of a sudden, Black Diamond, I love you. God bless you. Thank you, sis. I appreciate you. But she said all of a sudden she just got this desire. She said she wasn't sad, she wasn't depressed, nothing was going on in her life. It just an overwhelming desire to kill herself. She had this overwhelming desire to kill herself. And I don't remember what happened, what she did, or what have you, but ultimately, obviously, she's here to tell the story. But she said, I think there was an attempt or a thought about an attempt or something, but she said it just came out of the blue. And I'm introducing you to that to say that is possible. That is something that could have potentially happened with him. Because whenever you're dealing with demonic spirits, they can come over you at any given time. And this is one of the reasons why you want to have people in your life that are that understand deliverance. You want to make sure that you know deliverance, because I'm going to tell you, for every single person on here who desires to be married, please hear me when I say this. Your husband gonna come home with demons. To every man on here that desires to be married, your wife gonna come home with demons at some point, because we typically need deliverance every quarter. And it's a beautiful thing when you have the ability and the boldness to cast the demons out of the people you love the most, the people that are in your house. When you can look at your spouse and say, hey, listen, you need deliverance. Y'all, these numbers are not moving. Do me a favor, be sure to like and share. Be sure to like and share. Be sure to like and share. But it's a beautiful thing to be able to cast demons out of the people you love the most. I don't really care about the numbers. I'm going to get into the lesson, and I'm going to be sharing with you now. First and foremost, let me tell you the reason I decided to preach this lesson, to teach this lesson, was because honestly, I posted something on TikTok. Like I said, I'm new to TikTok. Most of y'all didn't know that. One of the reasons I didn't introduce it or advertise it on this channel is because I didn't want to suddenly have 10,000. Like, I wanted to grow it organically. I didn't want to say, to be said, hey, these are the same folks from her YouTube. I didn't want to feel like that. And I don't mind people from YouTube following me. I think you should. But I'm saying that was the reason I didn't do a whole lot of advertising. I wanted to grow it naturally. I just wanted to, grow it organically or what have you. But I started posting up, quite a few things about deliverance. And obviously TikTok has a lot, just like every other place in the world, but TikTok has a lot of young people on there, and a lot of people who have a different culture than my generation, and which is why a lot of people from my generation steer away from TikTok, is because of, the culture of Gen Z is significantly different than the culture and the traditions of Generation X. I'm Generation X, and one of the things you have to understand is that just because our cultures are different doesn't mean that Generation X is wrong. It doesn't mean that Gen Z is wrong. There are instances where I can look and say, y'all gonna learn. You gonna learn. And there are instances where I say, you know what, I'm glad you guys are saying that. I'm glad you got the boldness. I'm glad you, or what have you. But I was on there and I posted up something, and people are always asking me, how do I get deliverance? How do I get deliverance? Or what have you. And I'm always kind of reserved to say on there because I know the mindset is a little bit different. Um, Let me just tell you one of the tricks of the enemy, and this is just small talk as we're coming in. One of the tricks of the enemy I've noticed is that he's been attacking the attention spans of people from one generation to another. Now, we can talk about technology and how everything is getting smarter, therefore we don't have to be smarter, but you better hear me. What the Bible told you to be wise as a serpent. You are supposed to be growing in your wisdom. You're supposed to be growing in your intelligence. But what the enemy has done, the enemy has, okay, so my generation, for example, we had to remember phone numbers. I still remember two phone numbers from my childhood. I remember the phone number we had when I was about from the time when I was about 20, 19, 20, all the way until I was about 23 or 20. No, my mama had that for quite some time. So I still remember some of the phone numbers because we had to rehearse them in our mind. Sometimes we didn't have paper to write it down. So if somebody came and stood in front of me and he said, "Can I call you sometime?" Or he said, "Hey, give me a call." I'm like, "Okay, what's your phone number?" And he said, 601, because that was the area code. It was now 662, the part of Mississippi I was from. But if he said 601 334, and then he gave me his number, I had to say 601 334, and I had to keep doing it. I had to keep doing it. I had to meditate. I had to say the 334 66223, and I had to put it in my mind. But one of the things that has happened with this particular generation is that the enemy has shortened the attention span of people, so much so that if I do a video that is an hour and a half, 2 hours, or if I go beyond that, I'm going to have a few complainers in the comment section who doesn't know how to divide their food, who doesn't understand that, hey, just watch it in increments. It is the most simple thing to me. And I've noticed that a lot of people overcomplicate things. Why is it so long? What have you? Like, no, how about trying this? Rather than trying to control the pulpit, rather than trying to control the person that's preaching, why don't you just say, this is a 3 hour video. My attention span allows me to watch up to this much. So if you can only do an hour, why not watch an hour? Pause it right there. Go do whatever you want to do. Whenever you want to watch another video, come back and start where you left off. Is that complicated? Y'all got to tell me. Is that complicated? That's just the way that I think. That's logic. But the thing that the enemy has done is now he's shortened the attention spans of people, whereas we could watch a 2 3 hour movie or what have you. What he does is he shortens your attention span. Now you can watch movies that are sinful and ungodly. You can sit there and watch that for 4 hours and be highly engaged. But he's shortening the attention spans of people to the point where now when it comes to ministry, most leaders can only preach for 30 to 40 minutes because after that people start complaining. Whenever you're doing YouTube videos, if you want your YouTube video to get more views, you try to stay within 15 minutes. That's just like a law. You try to stay within 15 minutes because people's attention spans are shorter. So YouTube is more popular with the millennials because millennials have a little bit more of an attention span than Gen Z. Gen Z does not have that great of an attention span. I'm showing you how the enemy is attacking people generation after generation. Gen Z can watch TikTok. So this is why you find a lot of Gen Z on TikTok. They can watch TikTok because the videos are 1 minute to 3 minutes in length. And if you do a 3 minute video that's supposed to be entertaining, you're going to find Gen Z in the comment section cursing them folks out because of their attention span. That's an attack from the enemy. You know why? The Bible says, above all thy getting, get understanding. Above all thy getting, get understanding. It takes more than a minute for you to get understanding. So what the enemy does when he shortens your attention span is he's attacking your ability to understand a thing. So you end up with knowledge, but you end up with zeal, but not according to knowledge. You end up getting a little bit of knowledge, but no understanding to sit it down on. And so you become high-minded and proud. And that's what the Bible tells us, that knowledge puffs up. So now you end up with a bunch of people who got pride, who know what the scriptures say. They studied the scriptures. They know what they say, but they don't understand. They know what the scriptures say, but they don't understand. So the reason I'm saying that is to say, I want you to understand how the enemy is working. I'm X generation, but baby boomers could tell me what was lost, that was lost upon my generation. My generation can tell millennials what is lost upon this generation. And your generation, millennials, is almost your turn to sit in my seat. And you're going to look at Gen Z and you're going to be surprised. You're going to see how the enemy is moving, because with every generation, he removes something. With every generation, he normalizes something. With every generation, he destroys something that was ordinarily established, something that was ordinarily normalized with every generation. And so from generation X to generation millennial, I can tell you one of the things that he has destroyed is your attention span. And what he's doing it more with Gen Z. And let me tell you how I see how it works. Y'all, I got a lesson here. I promise you I'm going to get into it. But I want to mention it. This is how I see it works, because my generation, I remember seeing the church, I started going to I started going to church when I was about 20 years old, 21 years old when I got saved. It was shocking. It's shocking to me, even as a young lady, to see people coming in the church and giving their kids crayons and a coloring book. It was shocking to me because our parents worked on our attention span. They taught us that you can't clock out of the word. We're not going to distract you from the word just because you're a kid. No, you had to sit there. You got in a lot of trouble on Sundays. But you know what? I appreciate it because, y'all, we got pinched. I don't know if you know what it feels like to be pinched while you're sitting on a pew. It don't matter where you are, but I'm talking about when your parent pinched you. That I'm telling you, I'd rather you whoop me. That pinch reached your soul. Some of y'all don't know what I'm talking about. It's gonna take the other people, maybe they're at work right now, what have you. I don't know, but right, they're more of a microwave generation. Everything is fast. We got pinched. We got pinched. So what we had to do, we said, and if we started trying to cry, we had to walk that green mile. That means that you will see that parent get up and walk, and you already knew what was coming. If your parent grabbed your hand and took you out the church, they would take you out there. And when they got you out there, there was a switch bush. I don't know if the Lord had angels planting switch bushes out there, but there was always a switch bush or somebody in the church that had a strap on them. That pinch would traumatize. I'm telling you, that had a strap on him. Every time as a kid, when we saw, y'all wonder why kids would look, when we saw a kid walking the green mile, we did this right here. We watched. Pastor still preaching. You see that mother get up and holding that child hand, and the child think they getting what they want. They coming out. You like, oh, that child. No, but it is a surprise to me. This particular generation, when they come in, they give the child a coloring book and crayons, or they give the children a cell phone. They give them a cell phone and they give them earpieces and stuff like that. And that's teaching them that, hey, what you want to do is more important than the word of God. No, they taught us to keep it sacred. They taught us to keep it sacred. And I just remember a couple of times where I had to walk that green mile. And baby, I'm going to tell you something. It was nothing like that, because when you were walking that green mile, you either did one or two things. You just walked out of there crying, looking straight up ahead, or you made eye contact with some of the people trying to get mercy. You got snot coming down your nerve because you want somebody to jump up. Help me, she's about to get me. Because it's not just a whooping. You're gonna get a whooping for embarrassing mama, for disrespecting something that was sacred. You're gonna get a whooping for that. And we already knew. So I can honestly say the time we were in church, we came out of church when I was 8 years old. But before then, the time we were in church, baby, let me tell you, I walked the green mile maybe one or two times. You didn't have to take me on that green mile no more. But I did get pinched quite a few times. I did get my fair share of being pinched, okay? And there is nothing you can, there ain't nothing like that pinch. That switch and that pinch got us together. All right. So what we had to do, we had to learn to go to church, and we just thought we had to learn and do this right here. Watch the church, watch the pastor. And you know what we did? We fell asleep. Sometimes our parents would let us sleep, especially if they knew we were up the night before, because it was their fault. And then other times they pinched us back away. Y'all know what I'm talking about. All right. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that you should know. And I want to ask a question. I just want to see your engagement in the chat. I want you to answer this. How many of you feel like you're called to deliverance by the raise of your hand? How many of you feel like you're called to deliverance? I'm going to teach you a little bit about demonology, and I'm also going to speak to the people who feel like they're called to deliverance. First 10 pointers, I'm going to be giving some basics on demonology. But by the raising of your hands, how many of you feel like you're called to deliverance? Amen, amen. I love it. I love it. Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let me say this to you. When I say you are needed, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. When I say you are needed in this hour, I am not joking. When I say that you are needed, when I say that you are needed, when I say that the supply and demand are, oh God, when I say that you are needed in this hour. You are needed in this hour. You are needed in this hour. And you're going to have to be okay with, there's going to be a boldness for those of you that God elects. For those of you, not all of us as believers should be casting out demons, but there are some of us who are specifically wired to cast them out. And I'm going to help you to understand the difference, when we get a little bit further into this message. But when I tell you that you are needed in this hour. We are in dire straight. Like, we really need you to come out of your caves, come out of the pews. We need you to come, and we need you to call to accept that call on your life. I do understand that it requires another level of dying itself, but that's needed. But you are needed in this hour. You are needed in this hour, because I would dare to say, because I don't think there are any statistics that deal with deliverance. But from what I can see, I would say 1% to 2% of churches cast out demons. Let me know if you feel like my stats are off. 1 to 2%, less than 10%. I could definitely say that, but I would say 1 to 2% of churches, Christian churches, cast out demons. And I would say the numbers are lower when it comes to Christians that cast out demons. I would dare to say 3% of churches cast out demons, 1% of believers cast out demons. You don't have that many people that are casting out demons. Consequently, those of us who do, there are so many people pressing on us, to the point where there's a level of conviction, because we're like, there's so many of them, God, but how can I help you? I can't. It's impossible. It's just me. It's just me. It's not that many people. Now, I want to stop and say this before I go any further. If you are in the Atlanta, Georgia area, listen, January 1st, come out to Embassy Church. We are in our new location, 4665 Macklin Avenues. I don't know if y'all have the address, but 4665 Macklin, Macland Avenue in Powder Springs. Be sure to come out. Y'all be my guest. Please be my guest. 4665 Macklin Avenue. We do deliverance in Embassy Church every Sunday. That's one. And two, we just established a deliverance team. So if you feel called to deliverance, I would say, if you're in the Atlanta, Georgia area, you feel called to this area, I would say get in your car. Make sure you're here. Even if you take a flight, make sure this is going to be our first service, New Year's service. So bring in the new year with us. But I would say come to Powder Springs, 4665 Macklin Avenue. Is a former Relentless Church. So that's how, if you want to find it, you can look up Relentless Church on you can look up Relentless Church on Google. It's still showing up as Relentless. Eventually, it's going to transition. You'll see the name Embassy Church affiliated with that address. But I say get in a good structured setting. That's going to be my first pointer with you. Get in a good structured setting. Y'all, a lot of Christians, a lot of people who identify as believers, notice I said identify, they don't have a church home and don't want to come to a church. Now, I'm not saying they're not Christians, because some of you have not gotten into a church home. You need to find a church home. But I'm saying that you got to understand, you can't forsake the coming together of the saints. You are needed. And I want to change your mind on today so that you can stop thinking that you need the church, and understand that the church needs you as well. It's a balanced relationship. You got to stop thinking like that, because when you come in there with the mindset of I'm fine, I'm just gonna stay at home or what have you, or I'm just gonna come in here, see if they can cast out my demons, and if they can pray for me, if they can prophesy to me. When you come in with that mindset, you pick up, and I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna say it with my chest, you end up having an enemy's mindset toward the church. And think of it this way: you wouldn't want to build a relationship with somebody who only reaches out to you whenever they want something. Am I right? You don't want somebody in your life who feel entitled to your time, entitled to your resources, but they are ghosts any other time. They don't even check on you, don't say, hey, how you doing? They're using your resources. They're not trying to replenish you. They're not trying to do anything. They're just coming to take. You wouldn't want to fool with anybody like that. And for whatever reason, people have that mindset as it relates to the church, like, well, the church is obligated. But that's another message. We're going to get to that a little bit later. Let me go ahead and get into these pointers. So I'm going to give the first 10 pointers, and then the next 10 pointers are going to be signs and symptoms that you're called to deliverance, and they're going to get ready to close from there. But the first 10 pointers, I don't necessarily have a header for them, but these are just demonology points. Number one, everything that God says is a law. Everything must conform to his words. I'm going to move through these pointers pretty quick because I got to kind of explain them as a whole. Everything that God says is a law. Everything that God says is a law. Everything must conform to his words. Everything he says. So everything he says, as you can see, I got lights up in here. I got these lights. It's still daytime outside. There's light. If God looked in this room and said it was dark, he wouldn't be lying, because it's impossible for him to lie. If he spoke that these lights would go off, that everything would go, it would just be pitch dark in here. The minute God says it, everything is going to conform to what he says. You understand that? This is why it's impossible for him to tell a lie. He's good, but anything he says automatically has to obey him. So when he looked at the serpent, and the serpent was on two legs that walked into the Garden of Eden, and when he started talking to it and told it, on your belly shall you go, immediately, it didn't just sit there and say, oh man. No, what happened was you saw it just real time. It just immediately went down on his belly. Everything that God says, immediately, the moment he says it, it has to obey. So if God says you have hair down to your ankles, I don't care if you got hair about this yay high. It doesn't matter. What's going to happen the minute God says that hair will grow. The minute God says that hair will grow. But God also put this, God lives in eternity. And he gave us this mechanism called will. And I'm kind of jumping over my notes, but he gave us this mechanism called will. So whatever we bound on earth is bound in heaven. Whatever we loose on earth is loose in heaven. So whenever God speaks a thing, we can receive it by will, or we can reject it. I need you to understand that as believers, you can receive what God says, or you can reject it. So if God looked at you and he said you got hair to your ankles, then guess what? You can receive it, but you are living in time. You're living in time. So it will take time for your hair to grow, not because God didn't say it, and not because the laws of the earth say that your hair has to grow in increments, simply because your faith has to grow. Your hair will grow with your faith. Does that make sense? As your faith grows. So you say, God said my hair. And what we have a tendency to do is we gaslight ourselves into thinking that God is doing a thing when he's already done it. We gaslight ourselves into thinking that, I'm waiting on God. He said my hair going to be down to my ankles. I'm waiting on him to grow my hair. No, that's not what you're waiting on. Your faith is what's growing your hair. God already determined it, but your faith is when you receive what he's already said. So what you're going to do is what I call the ING. That's the process. When we say God is doing, I want to change your mind to stop thinking that way. God is not doing. God already did. He's already done. And so what you're doing, the ING is attached to you. So what you're doing is receiving. So you got to get your faith up. And as your faith grows, then you're going to see your hair grow. I believe God. I believe God. God said my hair going to be to my ankles. As your faith grows. Now, you can mess around and get content when your hair gets to right here. And you say, God, I got some long hair. I'm just, whatever. You can mess around and get content and your hair stop growing. Now, it didn't stop growing because God decided to pull back. It stopped growing because you shut him off. You closed the window over your head. You put an umbrella up. You put an umbrella up. So everything that God says is a law. It's a law. It's automatic. Everything must conform to his words. Number two, like angels, we were given will and a freedom to exercise that will with the understanding that we would reap whatever we sowed. This is the part where a lot of people be like, why God allows evil on the earth? You were created in his image. You were given this mechanism. You were given this tool. You were given this technology called will. You were given this technology called will. You have the freedom to express yourself in the earth. God gave you dominion over the earth. And he's not going to micromanage you. He gave you dominion, but he gave you an understanding too. Whatever you sow, you will reap. That's a law. Remember, whatever God says is a law. We were given will and the freedom to exercise that will, just like angels, with the understanding that whatever we sow, we will reap. Number three, sin cannot stand in the presence of God. Wherever God is absent, there will be darkness. I'm building here, so I want you to pay attention. Don't miss out on what I'm saying. Sin cannot stand in the presence of God. Remember, the Bible refers to God as light, but not light in a new age way. New age, what they do is they take principles, spiritual principles, and some of it, a lot of it is lies, and a lot of it is spiritual principles that are biblical. And what they do is they remove God from it. So that way, a little leaven leavens a lump. They can give you a little bit of truth, or they can give you a whole lot of truth, and they can poison you with a lie. It's that little leaven that leavens the lump. It's that little leaven that leavens the lump. But sin cannot stand in the presence of God. That's because sin is antithetical to who God is. Sin cannot stand in the presence of God wherever God is absent. Because he is light, wherever God is absent, there will be darkness. So understand that darkness means that God is not present. Doesn't mean evil. It simply means that God is not present. And I want to give you another understanding of the concept of darkness, because a lot of times when we see darkness, we automatically think evil. But I want you to understand that darkness does not exist. It simply means to be without God. I mean, it's not made up any atoms or molecules. It just simply means to be absent of light. That's it. Period, point blank. It means to be absent of light. You can't catch darkness in a jar. You can't catch it in your hand. They're trying to find dark matter, and there's a lot of things where they believe in with dark matter, but darkness simply just means to be void of light. It just means to be void. And I want you to understand this, and I kind of feel like this would be a whole lesson within itself, that wherever you find, when God created the heavens and the earth, there was darkness upon the face of the deep, and there's still darkness it's almost like outer space. There's a lot of darkness. Darkness doesn't mean that spot is evil. It means it represents the potential of God. That means that God's potential is without bounds. Whenever you look at outer space, we know that there are no bounds. Like, we know that we can only travel so far. Humans can only travel so far. But in all our honesty, it's without bounds. It's without bounds. The potential of God is without bounds. And so what the enemy did was the enemy moved in an area where he moved in this area of darkness, and this is what he started getting dominion over. God allowed him to go into that area. It just means that God turned his back on him, so he's not in the presence of God anymore. That means he's in darkness, and God allowed him to have dominion over darkness. He allowed him to have dominion over darkness. That means that God is saying, as long as I'm not over there, you can run that for a minute. You can have that for a minute. But once I start moving over there, then you got to move. And this is what he created mankind for, is so that we have dominion, which is why the enemy hates us, because what we do is every place we see darkness, we bring light. Every place we see darkness, we are builders, we are creators. Okay, so number 4, demons live in darkness. Demons live in darkness. Satan is the prince of darkness. Demons live in darkness. That means that they live wherever God is not. Are y'all catching it? I'm having to move through these kind of fast. Demons live in darkness, which means they live wherever God is not. That means that whenever you have a void, that's where demons will live. This is deliverance talk. Wherever and whenever you have a void, demons will live in that void. So if you have a void in the daddy room, demons will move into that void. If you don't go ahead and reconcile the fact that, hey, My daddy wasn't present and I forgive him. You get understanding, you get knowledge. A lot of knowledge starts to cut the light on, but understanding keeps it on. So when you start getting understanding and you say, okay, my daddy was broken. My daddy didn't know what it meant to be a father. This is a generational issue in my family. You know what? Let me intercede for him. I feel bad for him. All that stuff that happened to him, and you forgive from the heart. That's when that room is illuminated. And once that room is illuminated, demons cannot live where there is light. So once that room is illuminated, then the devil will flee. This is why God said in James 4:7, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. He will flee from you. So the minute you start getting light in that space, in that daddy room, or many of you deal with financial voids, right? When you start getting light, that means revelation, understanding, and knowledge. When you start getting light in that area, you will never be broke another day in your life. You would never see brokenness another day in life because you get an understanding. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to talk on that a little bit briefly because I'm going to deal with the church. But I can tell you in the one area, the biggest attack against believers was in the financial area. Because the enemy knows that if you get light, if you get revelation, you get understanding over there, you will be unstoppable. You will be unstoppable. So when you don't have money and you don't have money to pay your bills, you don't have money to do the things that you need to do, or money to relax, money to take a vacation. When you don't have money, you spend your life distracted. That way you never become who God decided that you are. You never walk into that. You never embrace the call on your life because you're so distracted by bills and bill collectors, and you're so distracted by life and being frustrated. And that was the plan of the enemy. But demons live in darkness. Number six, number five, demons consider people to be real estate. You need to pay attention to that. Demons consider people to be real estate, which is why they serve as real estate agents to other demons. So when people come into your life, I was talking about this. I think I was talking about this the other day. But when a person comes into your life, if that person is demonized, you are a multifaceted, multidimensional creature. What that means is like this water bottle. What you have multiple sides to you. Some sides of you are lit, illuminated, meaning you've embraced God. Let's say in your sexuality, you come to understand why God has said in Romans 12:1, present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. You have put that body on the altar. You have crucified your flesh. You're using wisdom. You're not allowing men to come to your house or women to come to your house. You're not going to their house. You're abstinent, and you have an understanding. You have made an agreement with God that my body is yours, and God, I'm not having sex until I get married. And so you study in that area, you get revelation in that area, you have understanding in that area, you good in that area. That area is well illuminated. That area is well illuminated, so the enemy can't get you there. So somebody can come up to you and be like, "Hey, girl, how you doing?" Notice that they're doing this right here because they meet you on that side. But what they're going to do if they're demonized, this is what people do. I want you to think about all of these being faces. I tried to get a guy to draw it. He didn't do that good. But all of these are faces, just faces going around in a circle. But what that person's going to do is they're going to spin you. This is what they're going to keep doing. They're going to keep doing this until they get to your dark face. That's the void area. That's the area. And so typically that happens when you're hurt, or that happens when you feel rejected. That happens when you feel anxious. Brother Vincent, you're awesome. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. That happens when you're hurt, you feel desperate. They're going to spin you around and they get your dark face. So you like, I can't believe this man didn't even call me. So from this point on, even though they met you over in this particular area here, they will no longer call for this version of you. They will no longer call for that. Now they'll display that whenever you guys are, let's say in a church or whenever you're in a setting. But for the most part, they're going to keep, girl, whatever happened. These men, that's how these men be. That's how, girl, these men, they're going to get your dark face. Because in that area, you have voids. In that area, you haven't allowed God to come in. And that's the way that the enemy in them, that spirit in them, is going to serve as a real estate agent to get demons in you. Am I making sense? That spirit in them is going to serve as a real estate agent from there. Because can two walk together except they be agreed? So they're going to keep saying negative things about men. These men, girl, these men don't care. These men. What's happening is that's a spirit that's in them. It's a spirit of root of bitterness. It's a spirit of anger. It's a spirit of control. It's a spirit of not taking accountability. It's a spirit. And then you come into agreement because now once you feel obligated to, They keep saying it. So now you start echoing it. And now that spirit moves in. Now that spirit moves in. Now you're walking together with them in that area. Now you can't talk to them about abstinence anymore and all that good godly stuff. You know, they don't really want to have it. They be like, yeah, I mean, girl, yeah, yeah, that girl, that's good. But anyhow, did you hear that such and so he cheated on his wife? Girl, don't make no sense. It don't make no sense. That's how spirits get in. Demons consider people to be real estate, which is why they serve as real estate agents to other demons. The reason I'm telling you this is so that you understand how you end up bound. So when people come into your life, and I talked about this in my book, Relational Acuity, guys, December 31st. I'm thinking to release the book on December 31st. But I talked about this in my book, Relational Acuity. When people trying to come into your life, you got to put a boundary up. You got to say, hey, listen, get to know me from the outskirts. Listen. Don't rush up on me. You know, I'm not. I don't like all that fast. I ain't trying to have no bestie right now. We good. Hey, how you doing? God bless you. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Okay. And let everything happen organically. Let God bless you. And what have you? You don't want to just end up having a relationship with a person and they just ran up on you and now you call them best friends within a month. That is the quickest way to have somebody come into your life and do this right here with you. And within the next 4 to 5 years, you're on a run from that person. On the next 4 to 5 years, that person knows enough about you and now they're spreading rumors simply because they were demonized. Demonized people like to move pretty fast. Demonized people like to move pretty fast. You know, you got to sit there and tell, I'm sorry. Listen, take your time. I'm not in no rush for nothing, okay? Because if you're here, if you come in peace, if you good and godly, God will bring us together. We ain't got to force it. We ain't got to make it happen. If you good and you godly, it'll happen over time. But you got to be very mindful of people when they're coming, because what the enemy will do is he'll keep spinning you. He'll keep spinning you. And trust me, you're going to have a dark face 9 times out of 10. Even if you don't have one that's consistent, 9 times out of 10, you'll have one somebody hurt you. Somebody hurt your feelings. Somebody disappoint you. Somebody offends you. That dark side to come out. That dark side to come out. That's the side that you only show to God or you show to your wise counsel. But that's the side we have a tendency to show to our girlfriends. That's the side we have a tendency to show to our girlfriends. Girl, I'm just tired. I'm tired of everything. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. These people just don't care. And we have a tendency to show that to that person, not realizing what you're doing is you're spinning around and showing that person that side. And that's a void. It's an open hole into your heart. It is an open hole into your heart. And so the enemy can get in through that open hole. He can get in through that open hole and you end up demonized simply because of who you were associating with or when you were associating with that person. I learned whenever I'm hurt, whenever I'm disappointed, whenever I feel some type of way, if it's something that I can't push up off me, I can't pray up off me, if it's something that's heavy, I've learned to reach out to wise counsel, to not give that to everybody. I've learned not to have that conversation, because when you're hurt, you're tempted to have a conversation with anybody that has ears. Let them hear what I got to say. You know, but at the same time, I've learned that's not a wise thing. Okay. Number six. Number six, if you go through deliverance, but you don't change your mind, you will end up bound again. You'll pick up 7 spirits more wicked than the ones that got cast out. You'll pick up 7 spirits more wicked than the ones that got cast out. If you go through deliverance, but you don't change your mind, you will end up bound again. If you go through deliverance, this is one of the things that I think a lot of us in the ministry of deliverance we get annoyed with, is that people treat deliverance like a shower between sins. It's like, oh, yeah, I was out here screwing this guy, and I'm out here. I mean, I knew he was married, but he told me they were separated. They slept in different rooms, and I did all this stuff. I did all this wrong stuff, but now I've been dealing with this. All these misfortunes and bad things are happening to them, and then they show up for the. And I'm sitting there like, child, do you know if you get up off of that floor on that altar and you have no understanding about what just happened in the realm of the spirit, and you go through deliverance and you get up and you call that man, do you know you're going to pick up 7 spirits more wicked than the one you had before? You talk about volunteering to lose your mind. What good is it to gain the world and to lose your own soul? Your soul is what? Your mind, your will, your emotions. Sister Sabrina, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. Your soul is your mind, will, and emotions. When you go down on that floor from a deliverance, you better get back up and change your mind. You better change your phone number. You better resist every temptation to call that dude. If he show up at your door, don't you answer that door. You better sit there and tell him, don't come to my house no more. You cannot, y'all got to stop playing with the spirit realm. You got to stop playing with the spirit realm. God is not your car wash. It's not that you come drive through. I got dirty while I was in sin. Get this stuff off me. I'm brand new again. And let me go call Tyrone. Girl, when you go back around Tyrone, now you got more space, more capacity. You're going to have 7 spirits more wicked than it was first time. Now you be walking around here half crazy. I have seen prophets and prophetic people lose their minds because they wouldn't come out of fornication. And I'm not joking with that. When I say lose their minds, I'm talking about lose their minds, be thinking stuff after them. Girl, they was in, I was telling you, some little midgets in the shower. I was sitting up there and I'm like, who y'all? And they like, girl, we CIA. When I went to call the police, I came back, they were gone. But girl, I think they got in through the window. Eyes be cocking to the north and just go, eyes all over the place. Because right then and there, the devil is making a mockery of your mind. Because the minute he makes you lose your mind, causes you to lose your mind, he causes you to lose your credibility with people. That's how he attacks the prophet. That's how he attacks the prophetic person. That's how he attacks, is he keeps you in sin. He makes you want power and position and prestige. Then he keeps you in sin, hot and cold. If you keep going between hot and cold, if you know how it works, if you put hot on a windshield and then you put cold on there, you put cold on the windshield, you buy it's going to crack. That's called double-mindedness, instability. The Bible says you'll be double-minded and unstable in all your ways. That's how the enemy works. He wants you to be in 2 extremes. That's why many of you said you're called to deliverance. You got to understand you can't go back into sin. There's a lot of things when you're called to deliverance that you cannot do that most Christians do. I'm going to put it out there. You say you called, here it goes. There's a lot that you cannot do that most Christians do. There's a lot that you cannot do. I don't care. And you're going to have Christians that try to convict you. They're going to try to tell you that you holier than now. Do your thing, baby girl. Do your thing, baby boy. Have your fun. But I can't do that. I can't do that. There's a conviction. There's a burden. There's something God told me to do. So you can call me religious all day long. But I can't do that. You can say whatever you want to say about me, but I can't do that. I'm telling you, when you're called to deliverance, don't let people put pressure on you to do things. Girl, ain't no wrong with having a little bit of fun. I'm just gonna go to this club, twerking all over the place. Baby, have your fun. Do your life. And I can't legalize what you're doing. I ain't gonna ostracize what you're doing. I'm gonna tell you that ain't what I do. So don't try to get me into it. Live your life. Live your life. So if you go through deliverance and you don't change your mind, you will end up bound to be 7 spirits more wicked than themselves. And you know what I learned? I'm going to move on from here. What I've seen people do is they will be in 2 extremes. You want the prestige, the power, all that other stuff, but then they want to keep on sleeping with this dude, keep on doing stuff. I know he married, but we not talking, but we are friends. But you don't have a problem with the marriage. Girl, you a side chick. I don't care if you screwed him or not. You a side chick. You're having an emotional affair with a married man. You are picking up spirits while you're playing with that. You're playing that game. Y'all want to play with me? I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I'm not gonna sit here and candy coat it for you. You're playing with fire. You end up with demons. And then if you Christian, they become religious spirits. Because now you got to justify in order to kick conviction out. You got to justify. Holier than now. You're going to have to justify. And you end up with 2 extremes. And then you start losing your mind. You start losing your mind because you're hot and cold. You start losing it. You start thinking that people after you. You start thinking people following you. I was in the store the other day. And there was a little old lady. And she was following me. She looked like she's about 95 years old. She was in a shopping cart. She was in one of those little carts or what have you. And she hit my belly. I was like, excuse me. And she just looked. She didn't say nothing. And I was like, oh, and I got out of her way. But girl, I noticed every aisle I was on, she was on that aisle. Was she looking at you? No, not really. She just kind of looked like she was slumped over. Did you check her pulse? No, I mean, her eyes were open. Her eyes were open and everything. And I saw her moving around getting stuff. But, when I got in my car, I looked out, I saw her coming out the store. I think they following me. I'm not lying. There are a lot of prophets and prophetic people that have lost their mind. That have lost their mind because they were double-minded. And God warned, if you're double-minded, you will be unstable. What did you think instability meant? It's mentally unstable. You will be unstable in all of your ways. Get too religious and too spooked out and be thinking, folks, after you start thinking that, oh, I was in the bathroom and I had to throw all my toilet paper away. Wow, I think my toilet paper was bugged. You think they bugged in toilet paper? Yeah, it was bugged. It was bugged. And really will believe that. I need you to pray for me. And no, girl, I got to cast that spirit out. A lot of it is just subjecting the mind from hot to cold. You got to keep your mind at a specific temperature. I have to stay at a specific temperature. I have to stay at a specific temperature. This is why when people come into my life, if they come in warm and they start getting cold on me, I know to close that door. I am not playing with you. I'm going to close that door because I know that's spiritual. I know that's spiritual. I will close that door. I love you. If you need me, I'm here. That's it. All right. Number 7, you can't cast out a demon that you're submitted to. So that means if you're called to deliverance and you deal with lust and you said that you can't call lust out of another person. You just can't. If you're called to deliverance and you're trying to cast a demon out of a person, you can't. And she says, I struggle with it. I be masturbating and I just do, and lust, it just comes over me. And most of the time in the middle of the night, it's just a strong lust. And you know good and well that you've been playing with yourself. If you know good and well, our Sister Denise, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. If you know good and well that you play with yourself and that you deal with lust, or that you just got through giving your boyfriend a 2-piece, and I ain't talking about the 2-piece with the biscuits. No, I am talking about the 2-piece with the biscuits. But you know you just got through doing your thing with your boyfriend. Try to cast a demon out of that girl if you want to. Watch what happens. Try to speak to that thing and be like, lust, come up and out in Jesus' name. Watch what lust do. A demon will humiliate you. Y'all do know that, don't they? Do speak out of people's mouths. They will humiliate the crap out of you. How you gonna try to cast me out? You just got to ride your boyfriend at about 7 p.m. last night. They'll attack you and they'll laugh at you. They'll attack you and they'll laugh at you. How you gonna try to cast me out and you just got through playing with yourself? How you gonna try to cast me out? You watch porn. How you gonna try to cast me out? They will put you on blast. You cannot live a double life when you're called to deliverance. I'm sorry, you can't be a double agent. Try that stuff if you want to. Try it if you want to and see what happens. You will see people get folded up on the altar trying to cast out a demon that they didn't have a legality over. Gossip come out. You just got to it. Fold them up there. You become a son of Siva in that hour. In that area, you got to sit back and say, hey, I need somebody else to come cast that demon out. Because you know you struggle with it. Hey, could you come and get her? Because you know that's what I'm just helping y'all out. I'm telling you right now, I'm helping you out. You feel like you called to deliverance? I'm helping you out. So you don't get your tail whooped. You don't get your tail whooped up there trying to cast out somebody's demon or get on the line with a person. Come out of her. And the next thing you know, you on the floor manifesting. The girl on the phone, hello. And she think you got disconnected. No, you on the floor manifesting. You on the floor manifesting. You can't cast out a demon that you're submitted to or that the other person wants. If you want your demon, I can't cast it out. Can't nobody cast it out. If you want Jezebel because you want to keep controlling somebody, if you want unforgiveness, if you want deep hurt and root of bitterness because you like attention, if you want those things, we can't cast it out. I can't cast it out if you like it. If you like sex and lust and you ain't trying to change, because this is what people do. They want deliverance from the demons that are attacking their finances, attacking their relationships, attacking their minds. But they don't want deliverance from the demons that make them horny. They don't want deliverance from those demons. So when people come, most of the times, and I'm being honest, a lot of people want selective deliverance. They want selective deliverance. This is why in the ministry of deliverance, if I'm taking you through deliverance, there's a possibility I say, Jezebel, come out. Now, the whole time I'm calling the other spirits out that made you feel like a victim. Jezebel, come out. There's a switch in that moment. You know why? because you want Jezebel. Two, you got a spirit of offense that's guarding Jezebel. Offense and fear are guarding spirits. Offense, fear, and pride are guarding spirits. They guard other spirits. They guard higher ranking spirits. So in that moment, offense is going to come to the front. Did she just call out Jezebel? She called you a Jezebel. So now you got your hand stretched, but you can't worship no more because you darn near got one eye open. Because in your mind, you think I just called that spirit of offense has just told you she called you a Jezebel. And you like being able to control people. You like being able to control your children. You like being able to control your boyfriend or your exes. You like being able to control them. And so now when you say Jezebel, you like quiet. We just came out of the spirit. We were in the spirit a minute ago when I'm saying python, witchcraft, arrogance, all of that. You like everything that made you feel like a victim. I destroy every altar with her name on it. And Jezebel, come out. Quietness. Why? Because the spirit of offense, you didn't learn to tell that thing to shut up when it started speaking to you and say, hey, she ain't talking to me. She didn't call me a Jezebel. She called a Jezebel out. So offense and Jezebel, go. You didn't allow yourself to go all the way through the deliverance. And whatever demons that are not cast out, they're gonna let the other demons come back in. You know, it is possible to get a partial deliverance. It is offense, pride, and fear are guarding spirits. It is possible to get a partial deliverance. Matter of fact, one of the tricks that spirits like to use, I find it interesting when people have a lot of demons and the demons go to speaking out of their mouths. And I've done many deliverances like this. They got a lot of demons, and the demons start speaking. The demons sometimes will start naming out. They'll start putting each other on blast. Fear, you're like, fear, come out. Rejection, come out. You know why? Because that's bad. No, that's Beelzebub. Beelzebub is a lord of the flies. What he's doing is he's releasing those flies as distractions. They're distractions so that you can cast them out and you won't come after him. And if you don't come after him, he'll let them come back in. He'll release them and he'll let them come back in, which is why in the beginning, yes, you get caught up. Everything they say, you call it out. But then after a while, you're like, wait, hold up, Beelzebub. Come on out of there in the name of Jesus. It's a high ranking spirit. But y'all, I need you to hear me. And this is kind of off this beaten path. But this is why deliverance counseling is important. Because most people want to know most people want to get the demons cast out of them, but they don't want deliverance counseling. And I'm going to speak to that shortly. I'm going to speak to that shortly because, boy, I got something to say. All right, nobody. Okay, I think I'm going to speak to it now. You can't cast out a demon that you're submitted to or the other party wants. Number 8, nobody owes you their time or their resources, regardless of whether they're Christian. This is where I get passionate. Nobody owes you their time. Right? You got to cast them all out. You got to get all of them. You want to make sure that you're tarrying with them, praying with them, and waiting on Holy Spirit. Because sometimes you can get tired. Sometimes you can get frustrated in doing deliverance. And you can get to like, it's obvious that this child wants these demons. I'm not going to be here all day and all night. But no, you have to tarry and you have to pray or what have you. But they need counseling. Counseling shortens the deliverance time. Counseling shortens the deliverance time, and it elongates their ability, or it strengthens their ability to remain free. But counseling, you need deliverance counseling. Now, this is where we get controversial. Nobody, I'm telling you this because I've seen this. This is a generational attack. This is not even just a generational attack. Can I be honest with you? In the African American community, y'all do. I'm telling you, Black folks do their pastors bad. I'm sorry. You got to stop thinking that people who are leaders are supposed to get on the phone with you and do an hour's worth of counseling and then another 30 to 40 minutes worth of deliverance with you, or even if it takes 30 minutes and you're not obligated to do nothing in return. It's this y'all, it is the most annoying thing to me. It is the most annoying thing to me is the way that Black folk, you don't see that in the white community. And to my white brothers and sisters, I honor you for that. To my Black brothers and sisters, for those of you who are not like that, I honor you. But for the ones that have this mentality, you don't want to join nobody's church, or you want to keep going to the church that you grew up in because you feel obligated, but they don't cast out demons. But then you find a deliverance minister somewhere that casts out demons, and you want to get mad that if that person says that here's the fee for you to have a counseling session with me that ends in deliverance. I don't know why y'all think, and I'm telling you, if you feel like you're called to deliverance, you will deal with that mindset. If you feel like you're on the other side of that equation, I always say, it don't shout at the pulpit from the pew. Never shout at a stage you never stood on. Never shout at a stage you never stood on. Until you walk a mile in a deliverance minister's shoes, I would admonish you. Because I posted something to TikTok. And I was talking about, people were asking me, how do I get deliverance? And y'all know I don't do one-on-one anymore. That's one of the reasons I don't do one-on-one, because the entitlement of the Black church is astronomical. It's too much. It's that entitlement for me. It's that entitlement, like, Sister Janika, you're beautiful. Thank you. You're awesome, sis. God bless you. It's that entitlement for me where people believe that I'm supposed to literally, and I want y'all to think about this. First, let me ask you a question. And maybe I should have asked this question first. Do you believe that a therapist or a counselor should counsel you for free? This is just my question, and I want as many people to answer as possible. Do you believe that a therapist, and I got dog hair on my shirt, do you think that a therapist is supposed to therapize you for free? And yeah, I made that word up. Do you think that counseling, that they supposed to sit up on the phone with you for an hour, 2 hours, and they supposed to do that for free? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Do y'all know? No, not even an emergency situation. Everybody think their situation is an emergency. I promise you. Everybody think their situation is an emergency. Okay. With that mindset, y'all, do y'all know the way that they no, never, never. The only way I would say you can validate that mindset is if you get out of the pew and die to yourself, get into the pulpit, and let me see you do it. Get out of the pew. Get out of the pew. Falak, thank you. God bless you, sis. Thank you. Thank you. Get out of the pew, because every believer should be casting out demons. Come out of the pew and stop telling us how to run the pulpit. You don't know how much of a demand there is on deliverance and counseling. You have no idea. It will kill you dead to sit up and talk to people all day long. And I don't know if y'all know, people get tired after deliverance. A lot of people do. Now, when you're wired for it, you're probably not going to get as tired. I don't get as tired as most people after deliverance, but I can have deliverances where I'm a little bit weak or a little bit tired after that. I need you to hear me when I say we got to stop thinking that the leaders in the church are supposed to counsel you for free, especially when they're not your pastor. It definitely is draining. It can be draining. If you're doing a full day of deliverance, or if you do a partial day of deliverance at church, you're probably gonna come home and take a nap. You're probably gonna come home and take a nap. If I open myself up to do counseling and coaching and deliverance, because you need counseling and coaching, and then to add deliverance on top of that, and I wasn't charging based on how some believers believe. This is why I say Black folks do their pastors bad. Y'all, a lot of them, not everybody, they do their pastors dirty. If I didn't charge, and if a leader didn't charge, we literally would have no income coming in, because it's such a demand on that. We would have to do that 12 hours a day, and we would be booked out for the entire year. I am not lying when I say that. That's how much of a demand there is on deliverance. That's how much of a demand there is on deliverance. I posted up, people on my TikTok, they're like, how do I get deliverance? How do I get deliverance? And I got a passion. I want to see them get free or what have you. But for the most part, I'm thinking, y'all got to get in a structure. Get into a good church home. Get into some mentorship programs. Get yourself inside of a structure. Get into some covering so you can stay free. But they were a part of a church home. People following him. If you need deliverance, go to your pastor. It's simple. If you should be going to your church. They don't charge in a church. If you come outside of the church and ask somebody to sit on the phone with you for an hour, nobody's obligated to do that. You're asking people to commit suicide. People always speak to a platform they never stood on. because they don't know what it's like from this side. This is the thing about this generation, is that you got a voice, but sometimes you don't know when to use it. You cannot speak to a platform you never stood on. You've never been in that position. We do deliverance at my church. They don't charge. At most churches that do deliverance, all of them, they don't charge. So get it at your church. If you don't have it at your church, nobody is obligated to get on the phone with you for 1, 2, and 3 hours and cast out your demons. At your church, Jesus had a treasurer. Believe it or not, people were giving to him. I try to get people to understand. It's frustrating because I've seen so many pastors. There's so many people running from the pulpit. So many people hiding because of that perspective. That people feel like your time don't belong to you no more. That once you come out of a church, that I'm supposed to be at home. Okay, I got 8 calls today. I got to do. Come out, and I'm waiting, and then I got to sit there and try to figure out what to do for bills. No, your pastors got to have jobs because of the mindset that people have. So they got to have a 9 to 5 job. Plus, you want them to come. No, no. It's that mindset. It annoys the crap out of me because I have walked in those shoes. I don't do one-on-one deliverances anymore for that reason. That's one of the reasons, because I got tired of that mindset. And half of the time when they got a schedule, they don't show up. Then they come with an attitude because they're not in a structure. I learned a lot of people who have no structure, they don't understand. So they keep speaking when they should be learning. Y'all got to forgive me, but this is a passion of mine. They speak when they should be learning. They got all these words to say, can write you a full book on why they feel like your time belongs to them. Because the minute you accepted your call, the call they were supposed to accept, but they never learned to cast out demons because they're trying to sit in the pew because they don't want to die to themselves. They don't want to die to themselves. They don't want to go through the process. So they sit there. They sit there and then they try to tell you, well, your time belongs to me. It's the narcissism of the American church. Is why we don't see that many. We don't see all that power that you see in other countries. It's the narcissism of America. Americans a lot of times have so much to say. In other countries, there is high level honor. They come to understand. And you know what? They don't have to have deliverance ministers outside, because most of their churches, a lot of parts of Africa, they casting out demons like it ain't nothing. Come over here to the American church. You got folks, they want their pastors to be broke. They get mad if the pastor collects an offering. They don't want to pay tithes or offerings. They don't want to do nothing for the church. They just want to show up and they want the pastor to figure it out. It's annoying. It's like, do you actually realize what you're asking of a person? You have no empathy for the pulpit because you've never been in it. You're asking people to kill themselves, to prove themselves to you, or to fit into whatever box. Because the problem is, people like to believe that pastors love money. It's a lie. You got to understand, it's the people who don't have money that love it, because you will get so articulate and trying to convince people as to why they should be taking you through deliverance and why you shouldn't have to give to your church, why you should go to your church and get deliverance. Simple. It's free. Go to your church and get deliverance. But if you want deliverance outside of that, it's no difference than getting a therapist. They got to therapize you. They got to give you counseling. That usually takes 30 minutes to an hour, if not 2. Then take you through deliverance. And then they got to get off the phone with you and talk to somebody else and do the same thing for the next person. Then get off the phone with that person and do the same thing for the next person. That's why I'd rather do it in a mass deliverance setting. Come to church. This is why a lot of deliverance ministers, I'm putting it out there. Y'all, we need y'all. This is why a lot of deliverance ministers don't tell people that they have that grace. It's because, man, people will surround you with their entitlement. They'll come at you with their entitlement. And if you fall victim to it, because there have been leaders that have fallen victim to it, and it's killed them. It's driven them to suicide because they had too much demand, no money coming in. They were sad and depressed, and they trying to satisfy a bunch of folks who don't want to accept the calls on their lives. See, your pastor can't say it, but I can, because I don't mind counsel culture, because at the end of the day, can't nobody counsel what God has established. I don't mind. I'm going to call it out. It's the most annoying thing to me, because at the end of the day, and you said pastor is trying to train saints. Churches, most of them do. There are programs most Christians don't want to get out of the pew. They don't want to. We got training at our church. Most people don't want to get out of it. They want to sit there and holler amen and say, cast out my demons, prophesy to me, and then they want to go home while they collecting an offering. Dude, what are we supposed to do as a church? How the bill's supposed to be? God's going to do it. Oh, good God. Y'all, it's the narcissism in the American church for me. I am not lying. It's not like that in other countries. It's that narcissism that's destroying our churches. It's because you got America, people got a microphone and they can speak, and they're speaking to platforms they've never stood on. Because once you stand on it and you see how much work that is and how tiring that is and how that can destroy your family, how that can destroy your mental health. And once you see what that's like, you'll be quiet. Or you'll start preaching and saying, hey, y'all, hey, it's a different thing from over here. I'm saying that to say, because I want to see y'all come into the ministry of deliverance. I really do. I want to see more people get into the ministry of deliverance because I'm sad. It hurts my heart, the attack of the church against the pulpit, because the Bible talks about it is, and a good friend of mine, he was the one that mentioned this, Apostle Keenan Bridges. I like to make sure I give people credit. But he said to me one day, he said, Tiffany, he said the Bible says sheep in wolves' clothing, not shepherds. And I'm not lying when I tell you it's the congregation eating the pastor. It's not the other way around. It's the congregation. Everybody got something to say, but they never stood on the platform. And when the pastor says, hey, let's volunteer, everybody help out, everybody give, nobody wants to get up. You have a select few that get up and accept the call on their lives. Everybody else sit in the congregation. Go, Kai James, go do the work for the kingdom. What are you doing? You casting out devils. What are you doing? Don't even got a profile picture. What are you doing? Go to a church. It's done freely in your church. If you come outside of the church and you reach out to a minister and say, excuse me, can you cast out my demons? Ain't nobody going to sit up on the phone with you. Ain't nobody going to die trying to cast your demons out. You need a structure. You need a structure. Let me get this content. I ain't got time for cantankerous people. I just don't. It's annoying because one thing about it is there are some people who don't understand, but they want to understand. And that's fine. That's good. Then there are some people, they don't want to understand. All they want to do is spew. Honestly, I'm not lying. They just want to spew, but they ain't never stood on a platform. They have never come out of the seat. Half of the time, they don't even go to church. They don't even go to church, and they got something to say because they mad at God. And they feel, and these are the people that attack the church because of their mindset. They attack the church with whatever they're in because the mind is the battleground. The enemy attacks the mind. It should be like this. So when they hear about another minister, another pastor that ran from their call or committed suicide, they said these people pastors need to get mental health. No, there is it's the sheep that's killing them because they're coming in and they're crying and whining. And not understanding that whenever you come to the table at the church, you come with something in your hands as well. We a family. This a potluck. This ain't no one thing. Because I accepted my call that I got to try to figure out how to feed everybody, cast out their demons, and do everything, and then I got to go home and lay out. All right, Brother Henry, thank you. God bless you. God bless you. Okay, let's move on, guys. Nobody owes you their time or their resources. Right. Apostle Harvey is an amazing general of deliverance. And I try to tell people, you can get free. But I'm gonna tell y'all something. Don't listen to demonized people tell you that every person that's doing deliverance, if somebody tells you that, ask them, do they cast out demons? Ask them. And you know what they're gonna tell you? They don't. Ask them, do they cast out demons? Will they do coaching and counseling with you for free? Yes, they'll give you bad advice for free. They'll give you bad advice for free. They'll lead you in the wrong direction for free. Sorry, I blanked out. I hope you guys are still here. Okay, we good. We good. We good. My objective is to teach, to preach, and to prepare. Because my thing is, I want to see the pew and the pulpit thriving. But in order for that to happen, there has to be empathy on both sides. Remember, and y'all, somebody say something to let me know y'all can still hear me because it went out. Okay, just right, I can hear you because it went out. Okay, I'm good. Okay, thank you, thank you. I'm saying that to say, guys, I want to see is thriving, but I want there has to be empathy. There has to be empathy because if there's no empathy and there's no understanding, that's why the Bible says, above all that getting, get understanding. If there's no understanding, you'll have a bunch of religious minded folks that will go and learn how to say hallelujah and hey, this is what it's supposed to be, and they never accept their call to ministry. Never. They're in the pew talking noise. They're in the pew talking noise. They're in the pew saying what they believe and yelling and spewing out stuff. In a minute, if they ever die to themselves, because it's another level of dying to yourself and to accept your call to ministry. I want to keep it real. That's why a lot of you run from it because you know that means that you're not a lot of your time. You're gonna have to give it up, and you're not willing to do that. But if they ever accepted their call, I guarantee you they will echo something different. They will echo right. I was saying that earlier. Only 1%. I would say about 3% of churches cast out demons. So the demand is high. You have a lot of people on any given deliverance minister. We have thousands of people that are wanting deliverance. And if we move the way that people told us to move, we literally would not have. I would be booked for the next 15 to 20 years, and that would be all I could do from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. That would be the only thing that I would do. This is why I do mass deliverances. But I do believe this, and I do say this: you need to be in a structure. And what I mean by that, you have to understand what you're dealing with. You have to understand how to stay free. You need to be in a structure. You need to be in a structure because a lot of people don't want to have anything to do with the church. They don't want to be a part of the church. They don't want to go to the church, but they want to go through deliverance. They want to go through deliverance. You have to be in a structure. And y'all forgive me, that's the minister in me that has experience doing this stuff. And it's frustrating from my end because you're trying to explain to people what it's like and they don't understand and they're not trying to understand. And they're just telling you to do something. You're literally telling people that and for me, I don't do one-on-one deliverances anymore. I just don't. Unless we're in church. If we're in church, I'll take you through deliverance. But over the phone, I don't do one-on-ones. I don't do one-on-ones because the demand is too high for deliverance. And two, I'm not going to be up on the phone every day, all day, taking people through deliverance. I'm sorry, just because they don't want to go to church, they ain't got a church home, they're not. No, I'm not going to be on the phone doing that. In the area of marriage, yeah, they do. They do. But y'all, I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on to the next one. I am passionate and I preach this heavy. Every believer should cast out demons. This is what the Bible says. The reason y'all see how it get, you had a couple of people to come into the comments, say something. We always do that. Anytime I go to talking on this subject, when you talk about deliverance or what have you, when you talk about anything dealing with gifts that God has granted people, you always have a lot of people, or you always have a few people that it's not. I get people not understanding, but they don't want to understand. They're not interested in understanding. They're just interested in expressing what's in their heart. The Bible talks about them. The Bible calls that a fool. They're just a fool is only interested in expressing what's in their own heart. That's it. That's all they want to do. They want to tell you what they think. They don't want to empathize. They don't want to understand. But a dry fast means no food, and no water. I mean, no food for the most part. You can have water, but they don't want to understand. And what we're trying to do, the objective isn't just to say, hey, empathize. The objective is to say, hey, come out of the pew because we need you. Go ahead and get trained. We need every believer to be casting out demons because once we get to that space, there wouldn't be such a great demand for deliverance. There wouldn't be such a heavy, such a big, such an astronomical demand for deliverance if we got to that space where people were accepting the calls on their lives and stop trying to be comfortable. It wouldn't be such a demand for it, but there's a demand because the majority of Christians say no to their call. Many are called, but few are chosen. The ones that are not chosen, it's not because God says, yeah, I'm going to go over you. It's because they want to be double-minded. They keep choosing the world. They don't want to give up themselves. We just want to get saved. That's it. We just want to get saved to go to heaven. But most people don't want to sacrifice. Most people don't want to die to themselves. And it's frustrating. So That's the thing. This is an extensive of a call. Listen, come. I want you guys to get into the ministry of deliverance, but I want you to hear me from a teacher's perspective. Don't let that mindset kill you. And I'm saying, don't let people come up to you and start loading you down with all these responsibilities and obligations to take them through deliverance, and they feel they have no obligation to the church. They won't serve, right? They won't serve. They won't volunteer. They won't do anything. They feel they have no obligation to the church. Don't you let them people kill you. They'll kill you dead, kick some dirt over you, and say a bunch of Christian hymns and go home. Go home to their family and go kill another leader. All right, let's move on. Number 9. Some demons have legal rights. Some demons have legal rights. That means that there are some spirits, they have a legality to a person. First and foremost, the legal right that demons typically have is sin. Sin gives, and when I say sin, we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. I'm aware of that, as you are too. But I'm talking about when you know something wrong and yet you continue to do it. More so rebellion. Rebellion is as a sin of witchcraft. Whenever you repeatedly practice a sin that you know to be wrong, you know that gossip is wrong, you know that slander is wrong, you know that fornication is wrong. If you keep practicing that, you don't repent, that spirit gets in you. That spirit can get in you. And if that spirit gets in you, what that spirit does, if you're dealing with the spirit of fornication, for example, if you keep fornicating, now, first, it starts off, you're doing it because you want to hold on to your boyfriend and you're trying to hijack your next season. You want to be married. You want to be married. So you're trying to get all of the benefits of marriage, outside of marriage, what have you. You want to be married. If you get those benefits, eventually you'll pick up that spirit. And so what ends up happening is you pick up that ungodly spirit. Relationship ends because wherever you present your body as a sacrifice, you create an altar. So you guys know there's the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of light. If you go outside the will of God, God does not look upon sin. So if you go outside the kingdom of God, because God is light, he turns his back. You go into darkness. So that means that and this is why you cut your lights off to have sex in most cases. That's why you feel so comfortable in the darkness. But you lay your body, that becomes your altar. That becomes your altar. Now this is your altar. You're giving your body up. When that person is on top of you doing his business, or you for the brothers on top of that woman doing your business, and y'all are constant, this becomes a constant, not even just a one-time thing, you can pick up a spirit. Not only will you pick up STDs, sexually transmitted demons, because the two souls become one, which means that whatever's in him, it becomes a part of you. So he ain't just having fun with you, you're picking up spirits. Y'all end up as one. You become one. So yeah, I know it had a glitch, but you pick up one, you become one, so you pick up those spirits. And so now you end up walking around with STDs, sexually transmitted demons, but you also have this, you end up with the spirit of lust. You end up with the spirit of lust. So when y'all break up, you're wondering why it's so strong. Why it's so strong, which leads you into more fornication, which is why you'll notice that the speed limit of your relationships continue to change. The speed limit of your relationships continue to change, which means that whereas you dated the last dude and it was like 6 months before you had sex with him, the next time you get in a relationship, it's going to probably be a month. And then you're going to be, I can't believe I did this. I'm so sorry. I'm not a freak. I can't believe this happened so fast. This is just not who I am as a person. But that's you, because you're dealing with something spiritual. You're dealing with something spiritual. And so now that relationship, you end up with him, y'all in a sexual relationship. Now you over there frustrated, and then it ends. And you're like, I feel like such a whore. And the next thing you know, you find another guy, you get in a relationship with him. Within a week or two, you're already doing your thing with him. And now you're struggling with fornication, you're struggling with masturbation. It's because you gave the spirit legal rights to you when you put yourself on the altar to that spirit. You see, the soul is comprised of the mind, will, and emotions. So when you partner your will with God's will, God is going to bless you. God moves through your will. Your will becomes like a vein. God is the heart. He pumps blessings through that will. You attach your will to God. But if you attach your will to sin, then you're tossing your will into the darkness, and unbeknownst to you, you're attaching your will to Satan. And so Satan will put anything into your life that he can bring into your life. That's why you start end up having sex dreams and stuff like that, because you can pick up a spirit spouse. You can pick up a lot of different things over the course of time. And so now you sit up there and you end up struggling because you were outside the will of God. But I said demons have legal rights. So whenever we are, casting demons out of a person, a lot of times we have to deal with legalities. And this is why I did deliverance with my students. Like I said, I prefer to do it in a structured setting. I do deliverance with my students every quarter. We just did deliverance the other day. We just did deliverance the other day. It was loud, it was beautiful, God moved. I love to hear the sounds of deliverance. But a lot of times after deliverance, people are wondering, how did I get bound? It has everything to do with the mindset. It has everything to do with the way that we think. Because that's how the enemy does. He attacks the mind. You're supposed to cast down imaginations. But a lot of people come into agreement with it, which is why when I start talking about, their people's agreement with pastors, against pastors, is an antichrist spirit. It's an antichrist spirit. And they come into agreement with the antichrist by having mindsets that are destructive to the church. They end up with an antichrist spirit, and that spirit opens them up for other spirits. But anytime you come into agreement with something, agreement creates a legality, and that demons like to move in legal rights. I said I was going to tell this story on TikTok, but there was a lady I was taking through deliverance one time. I was doing a mass deliverance, but I was taking a lady through deliverance, and no, I did a one-on-one. This was years ago. This was a one-on-one deliverance, and that demon and that lady told me I have a right to her, and I've heard that many times from demons. I have a right to her. I have a legal right to her. I have a legal right to her. In most cases, the demon is lying, but it's just talking about sin. You get the person to repent, and you can take them on through deliverance. But this one particular case, this demon started talking about a legality. And I said, what right do you have to her? And it said that she had signed some paperwork or something like that. She signed some paperwork. And what have you. So I'm like, I bind you. I only want to talk to her. So I asked her, I said, hey, what happened? And I started telling her because she didn't know what that spirit had said to me. I said, what happened? And she said, and I'm trying not to tell her story, but y'all don't know who she is. No, neither do I, honestly. I don't remember her name. I just remember it was a woman. But she said on her job, she had taken quite some time off, quite a bit of time off. And when she went back to work, they were ready to fire her. And they're like, hey, you need a doctor's excuse. And she was like, she went to her doctor, and she had one of those doctors that would give her whatever she wanted and what have you. And so he diagnosed her with a um I don't remember what the condition was. I think it was bipolar. He diagnosed her with something. It was a false diagnostic. I had her to sign the paperwork or what have you. Aunt sir, thank you. God bless you. Thank you, sis. You're beautiful. Thank you, sis. But had her to sign that paper. Demonic residue, no. Demonic residue typically is, you can call that stuff out easy. Demonic residue is just usually like demon. I call it demon poop. I got a book that I got coming out, but I call it demon poop. It's just the debris that was left behind or what have you. So you clean that stuff up by cleaning up your act, repenting. Of course, we can call it out in deliverance and stuff like that. But um, I sat back and I remember I said to her, that what the demon was talking about, which literally she had signed paperwork saying that she was mentally unstable. She had signed paperwork. She came into agreement with that, even though she wasn't, even though that wasn't a real diagnosis, but she did that in an attempt to keep her job. She did that in an attempt to keep her job. And so she signed that. And so the demon was referencing that. And I told her about it. I brought it to her attention. She was like, yeah. I said, go get those papers, renounce them, repent for them, and burn them. Burn them. So she ended up going through deliverance. But I'm saying that to say, demons love legalities. Another legality, I don't know if you realize it, it's a legality. For example, this is why, in sin, you are coming into agreement. You having sex with this dude, and or you having sex with this woman, and he talking about who is it, and you say yours. That's a legality. You just came into agreement, which is why you're not married. Because you came into agreement. You have to renounce those agreements. When you told that dude, I never leave you, you started saying you'll never be with anybody else, nobody can take his place. Those are legalities. Because you have to understand that God, your words, whatever you speak, you will have. So that's a legality when you speak that into the earth realm. And so this is why you have to repent. You have to repent. You got to let people go. You have to let people go. You have to say, I repent for those words. I cancel every evil word. And you also have to release people. Last one for this particular list. Number 10, there are signs and symptoms that you are called to deliverance. And I'm going to give you those signs and symptoms. I'm going to give you those signs and symptoms. There are signs and symptoms that you are called to deliverance. If you know somebody that you believe is called to deliverance, do me a favor. Be sure to share this on their page or tag them. Share this on their page or tag them, because I do want to do something with helping people who are called to the ministry of deliverance. And like I said, you can get that in your church or what have you, can get that in your own church. Churches should have that. And I'm not telling you to leave your church if they don't do deliverance, because the church I got saved in was an amazing church. It was a good church. It was a godly church. And I thank God for them. But they didn't believe in Christians having demons. But I was sitting there bound. So I'm going to give you 10 signs and symptoms that you're called to deliverance. Number one, you typically stay late. Okay, y'all want to let's have some fun with this. Okay, let's have some fun with this. Every pointer I put up, every time I put up a pointer that relates to you, I want you to put up a heart. If you feel like that's you, but every time, if you get number 2, change the color of the heart. So we know that's 2 things. So if I say number 1 and I give it and you believe that relates to you, put up a heart, a red heart. Now, if I do number 2, then you say that's 2 things that belong to me, red and a blue heart. Just do it for fun. You're not obligated to do it. I just think it'd be something that's interesting. I want you to acknowledge your call on your life. Number 1, you typically stay late after service has ended because you have a hunger or desire to see the power of God. People who are called to deliverance love to see the power of God in operation. They don't want to just be preached to. So sometimes they'll come early, but they'll definitely stay late because, after service, after everybody that is wanting to stay for a schedule, everybody that wants a formula, everybody that wants the pastor say, okay, we got to go ahead and dismiss you. Everybody's just dancing around. Well, we got to go ahead and dismiss. So if you need to go ahead and leave, we dismiss you, but you stay behind. You stay behind. You stay behind. That is a sign that you're called to deliverance. You love to see the power of God in movement. You love to see the power of God in operation. People who are not called to deliverance, a lot of times they move by a schedule. It's just religion. I just want to go home. As soon as the pastor say we're gonna release you, because what God is doing in that moment is making sure that, hey, let's get the other people out of here who can shift the atmosphere with their attitude. Let's get them out of here. So those of you who are hungry for God, so that you can stay. And so you find yourself behind dancing or what have you. You're not looking at the schedule. You don't care nothing about that. You're just happy to see God moving. That's a sign you're called to deliverance. Number 2, you typically conduct a spiritual investigation into a matter while others are looking from an above surface point. I'm going to give you an example of this. You typically conduct a spiritual investigation into a matter. So they say somebody dead, you're probably thinking, you're overthinking it. I wonder if that was spiritual. I wonder if that was spiritual. You know what? I know what happened. His mama was into witchcraft. And that's that stuff. That's stuff that Tiffany be talking about. His mama was into witchcraft. Well, you know what? That boy just made a covenant. He was trying to get into rap. He was trying to get into this. He was trying to get into that. So if that too, you should have 2 hearts by now. You have a tendency to look at things where some of you should have 1 heart, some of you should have 2. But you have a tendency to look at things a little bit deeper. You're a little bit more curious. You look at it beneath the surface a little bit more. People who are called to deliverance, we look at things not just practically. Most people look at things practically. We tend to think spiritually. Think spiritually. We start thinking, I wonder what happened to this person. I know for me, I've conducted investigations. And I've literally found things where I'm like, I know what happened. I know, okay. Or what have you. If somebody keep on having misfortunes in their life, you're like, I think somebody did witchcraft. You may be dealing with a witchcraft curse. There's something going on. Why this happened to you and that happened to you and that happened to you? This is spiritual. That is a sign that you're called to deliverance. Number 3, you follow deliverance ministers, watch the deliverance videos, and buy books on deliverance. You follow deliverance ministers. You probably know of just about every minister that's popular in deliverance. You know Apostle John Eckhart, Apostle Ivory Hopkins. You know Apostle Alexander Pagani. You know of these leaders. You have a tendency to follow deliverance leaders. You got books on deliverance, and you like to watch people getting demons cast out of them. You like to watch videos of people getting demons cast out of them. That is a sign that you are called to the ministry of deliverance. That is a sign that you are called to the ministry of deliverance. That is a sign that you have a call, that you are passionate about it. You love learning about the different demon names, the different personalities. That is a sign that you're called to the ministry of deliverance. Number 4, your prayers are deliverancy. And I'm gonna make it make sense. Your prayers are deliverancy. So I remember when I wasn't doing deliverance, one of my friend girls called me in the middle of the night, and she was telling me she had a bad dream. And I'm sitting there and I started praying for her, and I was like, in every spirit, I take authority over you in the name of Jesus. Even though I never cast out a demon, I'm like, I take authority over you in the name of Jesus. Every spirit coming up against her, every demon that came at her at night, your prayers have a tendency to be a little bit deliverancy. All right, your prayers are deliverance. I had a friend girl that I call down the walls. Your prayers are deliverance. They have a lot of spiritual talking there. It's not just Father bless her, protect her, and Father just surround her with your angels, cover her with the blood of Jesus, lead her on a straight and narrow path. And Father, we thank you that's a good prayer. But your prayers sound more like I speak to the mantle that she's called to. I speak to the mantle. I command you to clothe her. I cover her with the blood of Jesus. I destroy the demonic altars that's been risen against her. I destroyed it. That your prayers are deliverance. Your prayers have some deliverance undertones. Yes, Catherine Crick. I haven't heard of Daniel Adams, but I've definitely heard. I think I follow her on Instagram. Every time I think I'm pretty sure that's Catherine Crick. But I follow her on Instagram, and every time I'm looking, I'm just scrolling, and I'm like, come on, girl, come on, sis, come on, sis, come on. Number 5, you hate injustice. You have a balanced perspective, no isms. Now, let me tell you what that looks like. I'm a Black woman. That means I'm a minority, but I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I don't favor either or. I just favor what's right. As a Black woman, I don't favor people. I'm balanced in it. I don't think you're right because you're Black. If you're wrong, I'm like, you're wrong. At the end of the day, I'm balanced. I have a balanced perspective. People who are called to deliverance usually don't deal with isms. People who are called to deliverance usually don't deal with isms. I see things from a balanced perspective. So I don't always align myself with Republicans or with Democrats or with Blacks or with women. I'm a female. I don't always agree with you. I get frustrated with females a lot when I see these men. I'm like, girl, when are we going to teach women to take accountability? When do you say, hey, close your legs and put your standards high so Tyrone can't reach you no more? Stop talking about what Tyrone did to you because you let him do it. You let him raw dog you. You let him get you pregnant. You had sex outside of marriage, and now you mad. Why don't you take accountability? People who are called to deliverance have a balanced perspective, which is why you see I have a balanced perspective with the pew in the pulpit. Because most people stand on one side of the equation and they argue. People who are called to deliverance, typically, even if you have never stood in a pulpit, you have empathy for the pulpit. People who you want to understand, you seek to understand because you never want to be guilty of being an unjust weight. People who are called to deliverance typically have a balanced perspective. They're always like, yeah. Friend girl called me the other day. She's frustrated about something. I'm like, yeah. I can't take your side on that. I mean, just that's literally how I talk. Anybody that knows me knows that's literally how I talk. I agree on that, but you're a little bit wrong on that. Yeah, you flat out wrong on that. It's a balanced perspective. You're not aligning yourself with everything just because the majority of the people that you know or who are culturally centered with you, if that makes sense, are on that side of the equation. You'll stand opposite of them and be like, yeah, y'all look wrong. I mean, I get what you're saying, but still, you'll stand there. You have a balanced perspective. When you're called to deliverance, you won't be racist. You won't be feminist. You won't be, male chauvinism, toxic masculinity. You won't deal with that kind of stuff. You will be balanced, right? You'll have balanced emotion. You'll balance your emotions as well. You'll be balanced in the way that you think. You'll be balanced in the way that you think. You're always trying to seek to understand the thing because you're not interested in just jumping to a side and echoing what you want to hear, what people want to hear. You're not trying to stand to a side. You're quick to say, let me, okay, but okay, wait, but there's a lot of but. I get what you're saying, but I get what you're saying, but people who call to deliverance typically are very very balanced, and they rarely ever, if ever, I don't think they don't wrestle with isms. Most of them don't, unless they get bitter, they get hurt in the fight. Most of them don't wrestle with isms. They are very balanced, and that's what legalizes deliverance, is that you have to have a just perspective. If you're unjust in your perspective, then what you're going to do is generalize. Consequently, God can't use you because you've already made up your mind. You've gone before God and made up your mind as to why. I know why she got demons, because she a mean girl. I know why she got demons, but you don't know she a mean girl because the deliverance minister looks at it like this. While she's mean, there's something underneath the surface. So what we're looking at it is rather why everybody else looking at her and saying, I don't like her. We're looking and saying, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about your childhood. Like, what's your relationship like with your father? What's your relationship like with your mother? And you got to be honest with me. You're looking at it from that perspective. So you have a tendency, you can love the underdog simply because you seek to understand. You seek to understand. All right. Where was I? You hate injustice. You have a balanced perspective, no isms. Number 6, you experience more warfare than most people. You have experienced more warfare. As a matter of fact, your story is so astronomical that you don't bother telling people a lot of stuff that you've gone through. Some of you were even raised by demonic parents. You were raised by narcissists. You were raised by narcissistic people. But you've experienced more warfare than most people. This is number 6. You've experienced more warfare than most people. You've experienced more warfare than most people over the course of your life. You would love to say, hey, when people go to talking, you just most of the time you're sitting there looking at them like, you crying over that, you quitting over that, you frustrated over that, you depressed over that, you want to kill yourself over that. It's not that big of a deal. You know the hell I went through. You acting crazy because somebody rejected you, child. Because somebody that you ready to quit over that, you ready to give up over that. Because deliverance ministers have to have an anchor, which is the word. Deliverance ministers have to be strong, unmovable, because whenever you're called to deliverance, demons do put pressure. So if I decided to do a mass deliverance, a lot of times there's going to be pressure, there's going to be attacks, there'll be different things. So, for example, if I'm getting ready to do a deliverance on my students, you can bet your by golly, wow. Within if I say, y'all, we doing deliverance next week, by the time next week, 2 or 3 of my students going to do something to offend me. But I know it's not them, it's a spirit. It always happens. That's the thing. But I can't be moved by that because I know it's spiritual. I may have never heard from them, don't see them, or they usually good, but then next thing you know, now all of a sudden I'm mad at you. Or they're trying to offend. And I'm like, oh, here we go. You got to know that when you're coming into the ministry of deliverance, you have to know that whenever you're setting up a deliverance, especially something that's planned, that spirit in that person is going to try to offend you and frustrate you. You got to understand it. One of the ways demons don't want to get cast out, they will try to offend and frustrate the deliverance minister. They always do. When I used to do one-on-one deliverances, 50% of the people wouldn't come on the phone on time. Most annoying thing ever. You scheduled a deliverance for 3 o'clock. It's 3:02 and you still not on the line. Annoying. Because my time, I don't have a lot of it to give away. And so now I gotta call the person. Excuse me, you having a call at 3 o'clock. Is this Mary Doe? Jane Doe? Uh-huh. This Jane Doe. This is Tiffany. You have a call at 3 o'clock. Okay, I was just finishing something up. I'm gonna come on the line in a minute. Girl, no, that ain't how this works. I'm not sitting up on the phone and then we'll get on the line 3:10 and expect me to stay on the phone till 4:10. I'm wrapping things up at 2:50. All right, well, I'm gonna get ready to let you go. Don't I have like 20 more minutes? No, baby, you got 10. You came on the line late. Most deliverance ministers, they cancel after so long, because when you're in need of deliverance, your demons will do anything to keep you from coming on that line. You'll get surprise phone calls. You will have people getting offended. You'll fall asleep. You forget to set your alarm. It'd be a lot of crazy stuff happening, and you're on the line like, girl, if you don't get on this line. And you know the most annoying thing, and I'm just talking, y'all. It's funny. It's annoying and funny at the same time. It's funny after the fact, after you look at it, but when you're in the midst of it, it's annoying. Is when you get on a call and you got to call this girl, and then she like, oh yeah, I was coming. Here I come. And she knows she wrong. She knows she offended you. And she get on the phone. She finally call into the free conference call line. Now they always ask you, okay, we on the phone now. No, you got to call into the free conference call line. But we on the phone now. No, ma'am, you got to call into the free conference call line. I had to call you. This way we can have a record of the call. So yes, you got to call into the free conference call line. Okay. Then they call in. Um, hey, you get on the phone. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm here. They offended or they want you to feel offended because it's a spirit. Oh, I tell you, you got to be mindful of how you feel whenever you're getting ready to receive deliverance. Whenever you're getting ready to receive deliverance, mind your emotions. Mind your emotions. Because spirits will sit up there and have you mad and doing crazy stuff and then trying to see if the deliverance man. It's almost like you be like, you mad? You mad? You're like, girl, ooh. And it only triggers me to say, you know what, I'm gonna cast crap out of these demons. I'm gonna get them. I'm tired of them. They done got on my nerves already. And a lot of cases, and just so you know, if you call to deliverance or you want to receive deliverance, never dishonor the vessel that you're going to get receive deliverance from. Don't do that, because there's a lot of times you won't get deliverance because of that dishonor, because that demon will inundate you with thoughts about that leader. I'm telling you the truth. Oh, trust me, I have closed calls out and be like, you know what? Go ahead about your way. I'm sorry, because I'm just like, listen, y'all, because that's a thing for me. Because when you don't have a lot of time to give away, is when people don't respect your time. All right. Number 6 was you experience more warfare than most. Number 7, you forgive easily, but your boundaries get stronger with every offense. This is a sign that you're called to deliverance. You forgive easily. You forgive easily. You forgive easily. Matter of fact, you forgive so easily that it annoys you at times. It makes you feel like you're a fool. You don't like it. You forgive easily. Somebody could do, I'm talking about trying to sabotage you, trying to just mishandling you, doing all kinds of stuff, and you see them. You see the stuff that they're doing. But God will a lot of times just tell you, forgive and keep moving. It's spiritual. And you don't like that about yourself in many cases. You don't like that about yourself because you're like, why can't I just be mad? Because I was mad when she did it. I was mad when he said it. I was mad then. I felt it. I've thought about it. But why, when I see this person again, I'm being nice? Why am I helping? I'm all under the hood of the car trying to help them fix. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm being nice to people who are wicked towards me. People who treat me like a used douche bottle. I'm over here and I'm being nice to people who are not kind to me. And I forgive them from the heart. I genuinely forgive them. But you know what? I still remember what they did. I'm still aware of the fact that they don't like me. I'm aware of the fact that they don't care for me. I'm aware of all of that. But God won't let me carry that. He won't let me carry that. A lot of times you're called to deliverance, you have a grace for forgiveness. And many times it makes you feel like a fool and you get frustrated with it. You get frustrated with it. You want to take that and be like, let me put that, because they need to feel it. Like what she did was wrong. And she keep doing it. Like you would think she learned, but she keep doing it. But then when you see her again, hey sis, how are you? And she's like, I'm good. And you're like, it's good. Okay, you want something? We got these snacks. And she's like, oh no. And in the back of your mind, you're like, get some deliverance, child. But you still got love. That is a deliverance calling. That is a grace for deliverance. You have We're supposed to forgive from the heart, but people who have a grace for deliverance typically are forgiving. If you don't have a grace for deliverance, then you're probably petty and proud of it. You're probably petty and proud of it. When you have a grace for deliverance, you can have petty thoughts, but you don't act them out. You don't act them out because there's a love that God gives you, or what have you. Number 8, you are a defender of God's laws, especially the ones that people are unaware of. You are a defender, and I know that can kind of catch some of you off guard. I I think another example is what I just got through talking about with people getting frustrated with the fact that whenever they don't go to a church and there's a minister that's offering deliverance at a church they don't go to, and that person saying, "Hey, yes, you got to pay me for counseling," and what have you, counseling is prerequisite for deliverance, and then they get mad and say, "Hey, you are a defender of that kind of stuff. You defend things when it comes to the laws. You defend those things." It's a sign that you're called to deliverance. It's a sign that you're called to deliverance. I want to say this because I kind of felt this in my soul. Um, a lot of times when you're called to deliverance, you do have to be careful that you don't fall into the trap of religion. Because people who are called for deliverance, you could be a little bit extreme at times. When you're genuinely called to deliverance, you may freak out on things that you see people in church doing, especially if they do it in the pulpit. If you see, like, for example, if they cut on secular music, it'll freak you out. This is the house of the Lord. Oh, oh. And, and God had to tell you, settle down. Settle down. People who are called to deliverance, that's just a freebie up in there. People who are called to deliverance typically freak out. We can be extremists at times. We can be extremists at times. We can sit up there and we can overthink a thing. We can be a little bit extreme. We can be sitting up there talking about some girl. What type of demon in that child up there? The one on row 3. What happened? We can be extremists, and so that means that we have to be careful that we don't fall into the trap of religion, because there are deliverance ministers who have religious churches, and their churches rarely ever grow beyond 30 people because they're extremists, meaning people come in there and they feel constricted. They feel like, dang, I can't do nothing. I can't do nothing. What have you. But I think that the deliverance ministers, this is why you need to be in a good, godly, Bible-based church where you can allow yourself to feel all of that stuff, but at the same time, let it burn off of you. Let it burn off of you so that you can understand that everybody's in a different place in their walk, and that you don't extremify. I'm gonna make up some words, but you don't make everything extreme when it relates to God. Understand, you got to have a balanced perspective. Now, I'm not saying that things are right. I'm not saying that a lot of stuff that people do is right. I'm saying that you can't freak out. You got to understand that God is in control. You can't freak out. If you see somebody walking around, I remember seeing a girl post up talking about dreadlocks at demonic. I said, good God. Oh, y'all can't do this. You can't do this. Oh my gosh, you can become an extremist. Now, be careful, because there are some things that are demonic, right? There are some things like people wearing some of these little new age pieces. That stuff is demonic. You got to be careful you're not putting that kind of stuff on. But you want to also make sure that you have a balanced perspective. You want to make sure that you're balanced. You want to make sure that you're not freaking out. You want to make sure that you're not scared of, like, see it. Like, I come on here, y'all, I'm blessed. And I have to be careful of the chest. I'm blessed here. But I have to be careful of the shirts that I'm wearing. But I've had times where I've worn shirts like this with V. I try not to wear V's too much on camera. But I've had times where I wear V's, and you may see that little breast-like line. A religious person will freak out just from seeing that line. You're a woman of God. And honestly, I'm in the mirror. This is what I see in the mirror when I'm getting dressed. When you sit down on camera, it's a different thing. I see this in the mirror. I come on camera, I'm preaching. And so now you see a lot of times if I'm wearing a shirt that's doing something weird, I keep doing this right here because I'm just now noticing it on camera. I'm just now seeing it. But whenever you're dealing with somebody who's religious, they can be a little bit extreme. Oh, they're wearing pants in a church that with ripped leg jeans. Oh, girl, ain't nothing wrong with the ripped jeans. Yeah, was it showing her thigh? No, it was ripped at the knees. But deliverance ministers can be extremists. They can be extremists. But that was number 7. You forgive easily. No, number 8. You are a defender of God's laws. You are a defender of God's laws. Especially the ones that people are unaware of. So a lot of times, for me, for example, I'll give you an example of the extremist thing. Then we'll move on to number 9. I don't celebrate most holidays. That's just me. I don't celebrate Halloween, period, point blank, not even subtly. I don't celebrate Halloween. I don't celebrate Easter. I celebrate resurrection. If you say Easter to me, I'll look at you and I'll smile. I forgive you, but at the same time, I don't celebrate it because I know the origin of that name. I know the history behind a lot of practices. So if you're a deliverance minister and you go to a church and they say we have a holy night or something like that, you're probably going to freak out. These people, they don't care. They don't care about these souls. And you have to relax. You got to be like that next Sunday, they're going to want these demons cast out of them. You don't want these demons cast out of them. And honestly, I've learned, and you got to hear me when I say this, I've learned you have to be around Christians in all walks of life, because sometimes what we see as a lukewarm Christian is just a baby Christian. It's just a baby Christian. So you got to let them goo gaga, but you just have to be, give them a chance to grow in their process. You got to give them a chance to grow in their process. I think a lot of times when people become Christian, we expect them to go all the way over to being, to knowing, but they're in the process. And that's what I can honestly say I learned. It took me years to learn that. When I first came to my church, I can say I had some religion in me. I can honestly say that because I was freaked out quite a bit. Me and God had many conversations. I was freaked out. Anything I saw, because I was in a cave for 9 years. And so anything I saw that I felt like wasn't supposed to be, I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? But God said, hey, I called you. And you know that God called you to a place, and what have you? Then you start realizing that, hey, this ain't wrong. That's just you. That, maybe God told you not to be a part of it. And I had to learn too, as a deliverance minister, sometimes God will tell you not to practice something. So, for example, some people listen to secular music. I don't listen to it. Most Christians listen to it. I don't. Now, I'm not against listening to it if the lyrics don't point you away from God, but I think it's like drugs. It always leads you to something more sinister. When I get married, maybe we can listen to it because we ain't listening to gospel music in the bedroom, right? Maybe we can listen to it, anything that is that stays above surface. I love you. I want to make love to you. We marry it. That's fine. But I see no reason for me to listen to it now. Right. A lot of time when we first start off, baby Christians and people who are called to deliverance, we are the biggest people. Like, we'll go live about it. Y'all Christians celebrating Christmas? Okay, let me give you a little bit of history. Do you know where Yule comes from? I wrote a whole book about it. My book, Top Heavy, Bottom Fed, I talk about holidays in there. I rarely ever mention that book. I typically forget about it. It was a really good book. I wrote a book. It's called Top Heavy, Bottom Fed. And in there, I talked about the church celebrating holidays. It's got facts in there, but at the same time, you can take those type of things to extreme. So that means I had to learn that my church, they don't celebrate Halloween, praise God. They do have something that they do around that time. For me, I've learned that if I don't celebrate something, it's simple as not participating. It's simple, but sometimes when you call deliverance in the beginning, you may be freaking out. Number nine, you're isolated or have been tempted to isolate yourself many times because people sometimes prejudge you, misjudge you, or they're trying to control you. You have a tendency to draw people who have a controlling nature or people who prejudge or misjudge. And that typically what that has to do with is when you're called to deliverance, demons, not in every case, sometimes they can see that or sense that. So sometimes when you come across people, when you're called to the ministry of deliverance, you come around people and they demons just don't like you. So when you were in elementary, you probably had a bully. Jezebel been after you for a whole minute. A whole minute. The minute you call to deliverance, Sister Cecily, you're awesome. Thank you, sis. God bless you. The minute you find that you're called to deliverance, you find that your life starts making sense to you. You start realizing that's why my family crazy. That's why I don't fit in with the rest of my family, which is another sign. But That's why I don't fit in with the rest of my family. I see the demons in the family that they trying to normalize, demons that they've culturalized. Like I said, we're gonna make up words on this one. But you're isolated or have been tempted to isolate yourself many times because people sometimes prejudge and or misjudge you, or you feel like people have a tendency to try to control you. You may be allergic to control. I am allergic to control. I cannot stand when people try to control me. It is a trigger for me. I can't stand it. And when I say a trigger, I'm not talking about an emotional thing. I'm saying it is, if I'm busy, it will make me look at you and say, okay. And I start looking at it. And I have a tendency to call things out by name. That's my nature. I have a tendency to call things out by name. So a person could be sitting up here, a girl can be sitting up here, she doing this, and I'll say something, since you're not going to control me. She's like, what are you talking about control? What you're doing is control. You're not going to control me. I'm not doing this whole control bit. In other words, I don't beat around the bush. I don't have these conversations that lead to a conversation. I'm going to go straight and say, if I say to a friend, hey, I don't feel like going anywhere, you don't never want to go nowhere. Okay, that's fine. I'll let that go. And then the next day she called me up and she's like, hey, what you doing? I'm like, in here laying down, get out the bed. I want to go to this show tonight. Now I'm trying to chill. I just want to relax. You don't never, girl, what? Get out the bed. Now I'm coming over there. No. And the next thing you know, she tries you another day, and then now she's getting mad at you. She kind of pull away. She's acting funny. And then you say, hey, what's happening? She said, I mean, the reason I just kind of had to pull away is because, it's like you don't never want to go anywhere. For me, I'm going to look and say, I don't do that control stuff, right? If I say I don't want to go anywhere, respect that. Find somebody that does want to go somewhere. It does not mean that you have to disregard me or discard me or diminish me, demean me, devalue me, or anything. What you need to do is sit there and respect my wishes. If I say I don't want to go, please understand that. If I say I don't want to go, please respect that. Don't force me to come somewhere and then you sitting up there having fun and you telling me the whole time, smile, girl. You can't go by yourself. Or you don't have any other people in your life that you can go with. Go get you some extroverted friends too. That is a good balance. Have some extroverts and some introverted friends. Introverted friends make great conversationalists. They're almost always available. Extroverted friend, that's your party girl. Go get you a balance. Stop calling me to do extroverted things, okay? Stop. Don't call me when you in one of your extrovert highs. Leave me alone. You can call me and ask me if I want to go. If I say no, say okay. If I say no, but anyhow, again, people who are called to the ministry of deliverance, and not all, this is just something I've seen. But number 9 is just something I've seen. And so I'm not saying that this is automatically you or anything that I said is automatically you, but you're isolated or you have been tempted to isolate yourself many times because people sometimes prejudge and misjudge you, or you have dealt with people trying to control you. That is a sign that you're called to deliverance, because spirits try to control what they know will cast them out. They know that you're going to ultimately grow up to cast them out, so they try to get in and what have you. So you end up with these friends who are determined to control you. Last one, number 10. Number 10. Number 10. What hurts and offends most people tickles you. You're not easily offended. That's right. And the crib chilling. What hurts and offends most people tickles you. What hurts and offends? This is a sign that you're called to the deliverance. This is the last one. Sign that you're called to deliverance. You're not easily offended. Folks be getting all in their feelings and all emotional, and it's funny to you, like, girl, it's not, and they're like, you ain't mad. Not really. It's not that big of a deal. To be called to deliverance, you cannot be emotional, genuinely. You can't be emotional. Now, I'm not saying that if you're emotional, you're not called to deliverance, because you may need healing and deliverance. But I'm saying that is a trait for most deliverance ministers, is that a lot of times we are not easily offended, which is why we forgive so easily. We're not easily offended. We will let an offense go. We can see you throwing shade at us. We can do all kinds of stuff. And we just be like this. Bless their heart, Lord. And you watch people around you flipping out and acting crazy. You heard what she said to you. Mm-hmm. What can I do? That's just the way she think. Ain't nothing I can do about the way she think. That's her mindset. There's literally nothing I can do. She is the one who will reap or suffer the consequences of what she believes. She will reap what she sows. I don't reap it. She go home with all them beliefs and all them demons. I don't. So I ain't. She can act. Me too, Sister Erica. Me too. Me too. I'm looking forward to. I've had the pleasure of casting demons out of some people in my family. I've had the pleasure of doing it. It was always a surprise pop up deliverance and what have you. But y'all know my fantasy. If y'all remember um, my fantasy is they're gonna invite me to a family reunion and they're gonna ask me to pray. I'll make sure we're gonna have a call to salvation first, but it's just a joke, y'all. That ain't my fantasy, but it will be funny. I've always said that it would be hilarious. Right, unbothered. Deliverance ministers really do embody the word unbothered. We are typically unbothered by a lot of stuff. It's not to say we don't get offended. It's not to say that we don't get hurt. We just don't express it. And we don't allow those things to control us. And if something gets in us, we'll come home and fight it down. We'll go home and fight with it. We'll come home and fight with it. But no, I said they'll invite me. They'll be like, "Who wants to pray?" Tiffany, why don't you pray? Can y'all back away from the table? Because y'all, this is a good spread of food. And I don't want to see vomit all over this food. I just don't. I don't want to see vomit all over this food. And cousin Daniel down there, he gonna flip the table over because that man got legion in him. Let's just go outside. We're about to pray over the food. Let's go outside to pray over the food. Are we taking the food outside? No, let's just go outside to pray over the food. It's my fantasy. They're gonna call me to pray, and when they do, he gonna be heck out of say. I did that to a relative of mine who called me in the middle of the night. No, I called him on Messenger. He inboxed me. I hadn't talked to him in 15 years. And he reached out to me on Messenger and said he was going through some stuff. It was 3 a.m. And he was like, he saw that my light was on. And I ain't talked, like I said, I hadn't talked to him in 15 years. And he said, "Pray for me. I've been seeing shadows. I've been seeing this." I said, "Oh, you seeing shadows?" And I know he grew up in a really religious household. I was like, "Oh, you seeing shadows?" I said, "Can I call you?" And I don't remember if I called him Messenger. I'm pretty sure I called him via Messenger. I got him on the phone on Messenger. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm going through this." And I just said, "I was seeing shadows." And and he was a little bit drunk. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Okay." I said, "Okay, so I want to pray for you right quick." And he said, "Okay." I don't think he ever experienced deliverance before. He didn't know what was happening. And I started praying for him and I started speaking to those spirits and he started manifesting. "Ah! What's happening? What's happening? What's happening?" He sobered up real quick. He said, "What's happening?" I said, "It's okay. You're going through deliverance. What's happening?" He was vomiting. "What's happening? What's happening?" It's all right. After I got off the phone, I was like, one of these days, I'm going to get a chance to do this with my whole family. Like I said, we're going to have to go outside. We're going to have to go outside. And that was the youth of, yeah, because when you first a young deliverance minister, you trying to take everybody through deliverance. He was trying to take everybody through deliverance, but he went through it. He vomited up. He was like, "What's happening? I can't breathe. I can't breathe." I said, "It's okay. It's okay." And I said, "Loose his neck. Loose him in the name of Jesus." And he got free. He sobered up. He got free. He was like, "Oh, what just happened to me? What just happened to me?" I said, "You just went through deliverance." That's what, when you're called to deliverance, you get to live out. Yeah, God gives us, we're weirdos. Okay, let me just make that clear. We are weirdos. We have weird fantasies. So I look forward to them inviting me to pray. That's why I said we need to pray outside. We need to pray outside. And I will take some people with me because we need catchers. We need catchers. We need catchers and not just catchers. We need people. I need some people with me. So if y'all are willing to come with me, it's fine. Just let me know. Okay. Let me know in the comments. Tiffany, whenever you travel to Mississippi or whenever you get around your family, I am willing because I need some people that run real fast. Because some people, when they manifest, they run. Y'all do know that we've seen it plenty of times, even in my church. Where somebody start manifesting, and I'm talking about they be sprint. I'm talking about with all power. You just see them take off at the sanctuary, and we had to end up chasing them. Had to end up chasing them down. Apostle John Eckhart talked about a time, and I'm gonna let you guys go after this, but he talked about a time that it was hilarious. This is before I got into deliverance and what have you. But he talked about a time where he said deliverance wasn't popular. They had a small church. And he said people thought they were a cult, because you got this church that's doing deliverance, what have you. But people thought they were a cult. Okay, I got you. All right, we need catchers. Send you the invite. Okay, Sister Dawn. All right, come on, I got you. But he said that one time a man manifested and came out of his clothes, got stripped all the way down to his underwear in the church. So he stripped all white while manifesting, and said the man broke out running. He said the man broke out running. He said, now imagine they're on the streets of Chicago and there's this man running with nothing but drawers on. He come out of now. People in the central area already think they're a cult. He said, now just imagine a man come running out the door with nothing but drawers on. And he said, and all these men in suits and ties are chasing him. And he said they had to chase this man so many blocks and catch him and carry him back to the church. He said, you can imagine what people thought to see all these men in suits carrying this man wearing nothing but drawers back into the church. But yes, when people manifest, when they got some heavy hitting demons, they typically manifest very, very strongly and will run, will flip stuff over, will get naked. I've had that case. I talked about the time where the lady, I was doing a mass deliverance and the lady called in while she was driving and manifested while she was driving. This is why I always give this pre-note. Don't call in for deliverance when you're driving or operating heavy machinery. Don't hold your baby and try to go through deliverance. Don't be doing this right here. Y'all forgive me. This is next to me because I be having issue with these bugs over here. Raid. Don't feed your baby Raid. Let me get something else because I may get somebody an idea. You grab the water ball. This is safer. Don't be sitting here with your baby, feeding your baby, trying to go through deliverance. Manifest and go. Don't do that. Put the baby down. Find a babysitter better yet. Find a babysitter better yet, because we don't want to get a call that you manifested and I get on the phone. I got the baby right now. The demons start manifesting through you. Don't do that. Always prepare yourself. So these are signs that you're called to deliverance. How many of you had all 10 of them? By show of hands, how many of you had 10? How many of you had 10? Or more, because I know I threw some extras in there. People do some of the silliest stuff when they're going through deliverance, because deliverance is not that normal, so most people don't understand, which is why I have Deliverance Prep University, so that people can get and understand. And I'm going to release a Deliverance Prep University too. But amen, look at y'all. Yeah, listen, now if you're called, I need you to do something to it. I need you to do something about it. I need you to do something about it. I need you to do something about it. I would say in your church, volunteer. See if they have a deliverance ministry in your church. Get involved. We need it. We need it. Like y'all are needed out here because they trying to kill us out here in these streets. I'm telling you the truth. They trying to kill us with they trying to kill us out here in these streets, but we need it. And that's one of the calls I have on my life, is to make sure that there are so many people that accept their call to deliverance, who walk in their call to deliverance, because y'all are needed out here. Y'all are needed. I'm gonna tell you, you're not gonna find too many deliverance ministers who are trying to guard that ministry, who are sitting there saying, no, nobody else needs to. No, we all like, y'all, please come out here, because we need you. We need you. We need you. Yeah, most of them don't. But I will say, if nothing else, get involved in a deliverance program somewhere. Get involved in a deliverance program somewhere. Get involved in somebody's deliverance program and learn everything you can about deliverance. Please learn everything. There are programs that people have online. God did not limit you to your local churches. If your church don't do deliverance, there are plenty of deliverance ministers that have programs. There are plenty of deliverance ministers who have programs. Ryan Lestrange has a program. Apostle Pagani occasionally does something for deliverance, like like deliverance training school. He may have something on his website. I have Deliverance Prep University, but find something. How many of you had 8 or 9 of them? How many of you had got 8 or 9 of them? Matter of fact, write the number how many you have. How about that? Write how many pointers you had. That shows that you're signed. And hear me, just because if you have 4 or 5 doesn't mean you're not called to deliverance. It just means that God is still working out some areas. And then some of it could just be, some things that I've seen may not necessarily relate to you, because God is unique in how he creates us all, right? So he doesn't do all things the same. But I've noticed character traits in deliverance ministers that I've seen. Character traits in deliverance ministers I've seen. Well, wow. Most of you scored high. Most of you scored really high. Yeah, don't run from your calling, brother Matthew. Matthew, I'm telling you, we not only need, but we need men doing deliverance bad. I'm telling you, come on, come on. If you're in the Georgia area, come to Powder Springs and Embassy Church for every last one of you, because we're gonna have deliverance training. We're gonna have deliverance training, but y'all, please accept the call on your life, because when I say you're needed, and here's the beautiful thing. Before I go, here's the beautiful thing about deliverance. Deliverance gives you the answer to most of the questions you've had in your life. I'm telling you the truth. It gives you the answer to most of the questions you've ever had in your life. Um, Questions like, why did I go through this? Why God let me go through this? It was training. It was training. When I look at a lot of stuff I've gone through, it all makes sense now. Very south of Powder Springs. How far are you? How far are you? But I'm telling you, get into some deliverance courses, get into some deliverance training. Yes, Esther Prep. Get into Esther Prep University. Get into deliverance courses, get into deliverance training so you can walk out your call. I'll tell you, like with my church, we have our elders and ministers. Amazing, right? And they're getting their understanding, they're learning. They're learning. And we're not just learning, most of them cast out demons. The majority, let me say that. They're desperately needed, really, for real. But we have our elders and ministers, and the majority of them cast out demons. The majority of them cast out demons or what have you. So I'm saying that to say, get into a good Bible-based church. And for those of you who are in the Atlanta, Georgia area, January 1st, I'm looking to see you. I am looking to see you at Embassy Church. We are having our opening service for our new church facility. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let me see if I can pull it up. I'm going to let y'all go. Y'all, I don't like that it's getting dark so fast. I am just never. Yeah, that's usually a sign you're called to deliverance too. You first you start getting familiar with casting demons out of yourself. First deliverance I ever did was on myself. Covington. Oh, you're not too far. You're not too far. It's a little bit of a drive, but we have people there coming to the church. Like one of my students, Esther Prep, she goes to the church and she lives in Conyers. I used to live in Conyers, but she lives in Conyers. She drives, and she's like 21 years old. She drives and she volunteers there a lot as well. So it's, I'll say this: come try it out. And one thing I agree, Apostle Alexander Pagani has a tendency to say, a church alive is worth the drive. Can I run through the list really quick? Sure. Well, let me show you the church first, and then I'll do that. Okay. This is our church. This is our new church, y'all. I'm excited. This is our new church. This is our new church. And we need as many people. I think she said it's probably about an hour. Now, for me personally, it's 29 minutes. Personally, it's about 30 minutes for me. But she is about an hour. Most of the people that go to our church, the church is 45 minutes to an hour. Because, Georgia is so big. So most of the people that go to our church is like an hour away, 45 minutes. One girl said that the new church is an hour and 30 minutes or what have you. And they were talking about they have to move or what have you. And honestly, when you find a good church, I am not lying when I tell you, you do pick up that mentality. A lot of times you pick up the mentality. If the church moves you, like, I got to move. So I heard people saying, hey, I got to move because, I'm not going to stop going. But yeah, this is our new church. This is 4665 Macklin Road. Like I said, it used to be Relentless Church, but we just got the property. This is our new church. It's a massive church. So there's plenty of room. It's plenty of room. So if you've had answers or you ready to take the call, the ministry on your life, or what have you, come out. January 1st, we are having our first service there. We're moving out of our other bit because we were filled to the brim. I kept telling some of the folks there, I'm like, yeah, it's time. You can tell that God is saying that we were about to move because we were filled to the brim. We had so many issues with trying to find parking for places and, just trying to find places where people could park or what have you. And God opened up this door. So definitely come out. I would love to see you. And then once y'all come out, just let me know in the comments, hey, I came. Let me know in the comment. Not even just in the comments. 9 times out of 10, there's a big chance I'll run into you. But let me know that you're coming out or that you come out But if nothing else, come out for the New Year's service. Just give it a test out to see what it's going to be like. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be amazing because we have a lot of systems in there and we're building a lot of systems. And we have a deliverance team that we're opening up, and my pastor wants me to head up that team. So it's going to be amazing. I'm going to get to train so many people, and at the same time, we already have people that are trained that know deliverance or what have you. So if you feel like you're called, get there. But understand, again, if you feel like you're called, that requires another level of sacrifice. Sacrifice is actually taking a drive. That is sacrifice. Sacrifice, volunteering is sacrifice. And I'm not going to lie to you, because your flesh, you will feel your flesh talking noise. Your flesh will talk in noise. Yes, can't wait. Can't wait. Can't wait. All right. I love y'all. I will see you soon. I will see you soon. All right. Pray this bless you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right. Here comes the Benedictor coming over here. Hold up. I had to let him come out. Anyhow, love y'all.